When you see the law enforcement, the court system, and everything else being exercised against him, it is something that black folks throughout this nation can relate to.
A few moments later.
For that, I sincerely apologize.
Oh, this gonna be good.
I'm stating right here for the record that my words were taken out of context.
Oh, hell no! Okay, when we last saw Stephen A. Smith, he was hamming it up with his man, Sean Hannity.
He hates to admit he's a friend of mine. You can admit it. Just say it. My friend Stephen A. Smith is here.
Of course we're friends, man.
Well, now the energy is a little different.
I wanted to touch on something that I made news about just a few days ago. Let me say this, ladies and gentlemen. Accountability is where everything needs to begin in this world.
Oh, accountability, you say? Go on.
I'm fully aware that I've been in the news over the last few days, paraded all over social media as well, after comments I made during my appearance on Fox News' Hannity last week with the one and only Sean Hannity himself. And I'm fully aware of the outcry that has ensued because of it. A lot of folks in Black America seem pretty pissed at me right now, from friends and loved ones to colleagues, contemporaries, and dare I say even the NAACP itself. Quite a few folks were put off, if not flat out offended, after my words were interpreted as associating support for Trump from the black community with all the legal issues he's facing. For that, I sincerely apologize.
You apologize? For what? I mean, if we're offended, you said what you said. Did you?
Obviously, I took a lot of heat. A lot of people didn't like the fact that I said it. They wish that I had it. And when I give a damn, I'll let you know. I don't care. I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to speak what I believe to be true.
But now we apologizing. Okay, back to the apology.
For that, I sincerely apologize. To be clear, my words were misconstrued. I'm stating right here for the record that my words were taken out of context, misrepresenting and depicting me in a way I found every bit as insulting and disrespectful as folks in Black America evidently felt about what they thought I said.
Wait, what? You know what? Let me hear that again.
For that, I sincerely apologize. To be clear, my words were misconstrued. I'm stating right here for the record that my words were taken out of context.
Oh, hell no. I know you didn't say what I think you said. I know he didn't say what I think he said.
Misrepresenting and depicting me in a way I found every bit as insulting and disrespectful as folks in Black America evidently felt about what they thought I said.
I know he didn't. I know he didn't. You know what? Let's check out the footage.
I'm utterly disgusted with what I'm seeing because it seems to me that they're trying to use the law in the courts. They've clearly politicized this thing with Donald Trump because they can't come up with a strategy to offset the momentum he's clearly gained. As much as people may have been abhorred by Donald Trump's statement weeks ago, talking about how black folks, he's hearing that black folks find him relatable because what he's going through is similar to what Black Americans have gone through. He wasn't lying. He was telling the truth. When you see the law enforcement, the court system, and everything else being exercised against him, it is something that black folks throughout this nation can relate to with some of our historic, iconic figures. We've seen that happen throughout society. So no matter what race, what ethnicity you may emanate from, we relate to you when you're suffering like that because we know we have. And that's what he articulated. As unpopular as it was, as much as we didn't like to hear it, it's the truth.
So I guess listening to your words and using the traditional English definition of those words is misrepresenting, apparently. Like, who you think you talking to? You think you talking your way out of a he say, she say lover's quarrel or something? You think somebody said they saw something at the club? We got the receipts. We got you on 4K.
Blacks who refuse to support Trump are aware of his history of issues. And we'll never forget.
We? Did he say we?
Blacks who refuse to support Trump are aware of his history of issues. And we'll never forget how Trump claimed Obama, the nation's first black president, wasn't even qualified to hold office because he was born in Kenya.
Okay, if you refuse to support Trump, then what was going on Hannity, sorry, your friend's show, to parrot Fox News talking points about? Because that sounds a lot like supporting Trump.
5 polls, count them, 5. Emerson, NBC News, Daily Goss, New York Times, and Rasmussen, all big national polls had Trump leading over the last few weeks. Plus, according to 538, recent local polls also put Trump ahead in battleground states. He's up 6 points in Michigan, Arizona, and Georgia each. Insofar as Trump gaining support in the black community, well, how about various publications with these headlines? The Chicago Tribune: this time Trump really does seem to be making black voter inroads. Why? The Washington Post: voters of color are shifting right. Are Democrats doomed? How about the New York Times? As black voters drift to Trump, Biden's allies say they have work to do. Axios wrote: big Biden bummer. New York Times Siena poll shows gaps with key demographic groups. Wall Street Journal: Biden loses support among black men. The Hill: Biden losing support among black voters in swing states, survey. Al Jazeera: why are black voters backing Donald Trump in record numbers? And CBS News: black voter support for Trump up from 4% to 23%, poll finds. Why did I say all of that? Because I want to show you I didn't just open my mouth. I read, I listened, and I've seen a momentum shift, as we all have.
Okay, Stephen A., you know what? I'm going to give you that. The media has been pushing this narrative quite hard, and in fact, it's pushed hardest right where you were on Fox News. But the thing is, see, we're used to that at this point. They push it every election cycle. Hell, they tried to blame black men for Hillary losing in 2016 before it became apparent that it was definitely white women. But since you brought it up, you know what? I could do a whole video just on this narrative being pushed about black people and specifically black men skewing right. And while we're at it, well, there are a number of different reasons why Biden finds himself in the situation he's in, not the least of which is, Israel and everything that's been going on with these protests happening across the country, which I am actually going to address as a Columbia alum. I find it is my duty. So be on the lookout for that as well. Not you, Stephen A. No, just find Sean Hannity.
Who was on crack?
You think they not looking for something, anything, to possibly get this man off, and you just had to hire the homie. Welcome to Street Politics with me, Reese Waters. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for future editions. I use this space to reveal some of the unspoken truths, hypocrisy, and hilarity I see from Capitol Hill. Mostly laugh, because that's the best way to keep from crying. Now, speaking of laughing, I couldn't help but notice this hilarious moment after Trump defeated Nikki Haley in the New Hampshire primary.
I find in life you can't let people get away with bullshit, okay? You can't. You just can't do that. And when I watched her in the fancy dress that probably wasn't so fancy come up, I said, what's she doing? We won. And she did the same thing last week, but he was much more angry about it than I was. I said, get up there and you let him know. We are going to win this. We have no choice. If we don't win, I think our country is finished.
Oh, misogyny is hilarious. You never change, Trump. It's like you don't have to go to court every week to deal with assaulting E. Jean Carroll. But wait, who is that laughing behind him? Is that Tim Scott and Vivek Ramaswamy? Wasn't y'all just in the race? What y'all laughing at? Out here looking like the fan mocking Cam Newton's career who never made varsity in junior high. Y'all know I don't rock with Nikki Haley at all. She's the first and only two-time Racist of the Week winner, but I ain't about to sit here and let y'all have jokes. That's for me to do. Let's talk about you for a second. Your campaign showed up to New Hampshire, Vivek, looked at the competition and decided y'all didn't even want to play. Out here forfeiting games like Donald Sterling's Clippers. Besides, Vivek, wasn't this you?
You want to save Trump, you vote for me. I'm telling you that. You vote for Trump. You're sending him. No, but you're sending him to his own demise. You're falling into the trap that not only a country's falling in, that he's falling. You want to save Trump, you vote for me. I need your support at the Iowa caucus.
That's a good argument. That's a good argument.
It's not an argument, it's the truth. Do the right thing for him and for this country. That's what I'm asking you for.
I will consider.
Thank you.
That's the first time
For
I've
this
ever
country.
said that, by the way. Because the others...
No, forget that. But that's the truth. And I think you know it.
It's also about Trump.
But this is,
about
yes,
America.
yes, this is the truth, and what I just told you, I think you know that in your heart to be true. Do the right thing on Monday. That's what I'm asking you for. Thank you.
Caught with your hand in the voting jar, and then your daddy had to come home and whoop that ass. Now that is comedy. Now look at you. You really are a farmer, bro, because that is the only thing to change your mood that quickly. But the one thing I can say for you, Vivek, is at least I remember you were in the race, Tim Scott. Tim Scott turned on the one person who nominated him for the Senate. And the only people surprised that Tim Scott showed no loyalty have not been following Tim Scott. You cannot expect loyalty from a black man who turned on black people decades ago. That's like expecting an honest 40 time from Cat Williams. Yeah, that's right, Cat, I said it. We know the basketball court is only 30 yards long. What's that? What's that? Tim Scott wanted to say a few words? Okay, let's hear it.
Did you ever think that she actually appointed you, Tim? And think of it, appointed, and you're the senator of his state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
No, that's why he's a great politician. That's why he's a great politician. So this is a great evening.
In public, your dignity is turning over in its grave right now, wondering why it's been there your whole life. Man, didn't you just get engaged? What is Mindy supposed to think? You finally decided to come out the closet and get married, and now you're professing love to another man in public. Can we unclaim a black man more than once? Can he be double unclaimed? Like he can't come to the picnic, he can't know where the picnic is or when it starts. He can't even throw a picnic of his own. Like no barbecue for him for the rest of his life. And speaking of claiming black people, Fonnie Willis, let me holler at you real quick. Girl, what is you doing? The Fulton County District Attorney who gained national attention for pursuing criminal charges against Donald Trump in Georgia for trying to overturn the 2020 election now finds herself entangled in a scandal that threatens the entire case. And before I even get to what happened, how you gonna come to this situation incorrect? I mean, you trying to bring down a president. You got people all excited thinking finally Trump might be held to account. Not me, mind you. I am not one of those people. I have seen far too many credible allegations and in some cases, even convictions with little to no effect on his public profile or his financial profile. And apparently his political prospects. Everything seems to just bounce off this man. So I'm not one of those people. But those people do exist. You got people all excited thinking somebody's finally going to hold Trump accountable, and you out here living foul of all the times, of all the situations. Now, Willis is facing allegations of an office romance between she and prosecutor Nathan Wade. The motion filed by defendant Michael Roman seeks the disqualification of Willis and Wade, claiming that they were romantically involved, and Wade used earnings from the case for personal vacations and cast doubt on the motivations behind selecting Wade for the case. Now, let he or she who has not got Bey a job cast the first stone. We've all had our nose open before. But you get Bey a job working security. You get Bey a job working at Panera Bread, not as lead prosecutor to take down the president. What part of that was like, let me do my mans a favor? Oh, he's good. He just needed an opportunity. Well, now he probably not gonna get it because you both about to be thrown off the case. And how come it's always the boyfriend or girlfriend talk about all they needed was an opportunity? How come nobody else saw this talent? Huh? You the only one. You the only one, and you happen to have seen this talent. It might not have something to do with another talent they might have, huh? Because everybody else who's not being blessed with that other talent can't see this talent. And by the way, you out here spending money on vacations and whatnot, I'm pretty sure you're not broke. You couldn't have put that money to the side and wait for this whole thing to blow over. And what you doing taking vacations anyway? You use that tax money to get Bey on the case to keep him close. Where y'all need to go? Y'all both making money on the taxpayer's dime, spending time together. Where y'all going? I don't understand what the need for a vacation even is. What is the point of getting your man's a job or your girl's a job when you just gonna blow the money going on vacation? Y'all could have did that without the impropriety. Now, in response to the claims, Willis addressed the congregation at Big Bethel AME Church in Atlanta, framing the allegations as racially motivated attacks. Here's what she had to say.
God, you forgot to mention that my life and the life of my family would be threatened so regularly. I now think it's not normal if I don't have 2 death threats a week. God, you did not tell me that people would call me the N-word more than they call me fine. You did not tell me as a woman of color, it would not matter what I did. My motive, my talent, my ability, and my character would be constantly attacked.
No, 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 no. Do black women get the raw end of the deal? Absolutely. Do white people get away with this kind of impropriety all the time? Absolutely. Do they get their boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, son, cousin, third nephew, twice removed a job? All the time. You know what the difference is? They're not trying to take a president down. If you're trying to take a president down, your house need to be in order. You can't just compare yourself to what happens to other people who work in jobs that aren't in the public sphere. What you doing? You are dealing with people who want to reelect this man after January 6th. You think they're not going to use this? You think they're not looking for something, anything, to possibly get this man off, and you just had to hire the homie. You remember when you had company and your mom used to say, hey, you better be on your best behavior. You better be on your best behavior. I know you don't normally act like this. I know you don't normally dress like this. I got company coming over. And I got to make sure that, don't embarrass me in front of these people now. Don't you embarrass me. That is the energy that you need to have when you're prosecuting a president. You see what she did? And she also evaded all the key factual questions about all the allegations. Didn't address that at all. You just gonna get up here and not address what was alleged? Oh, I get it, because you don't want to be unprofessional and discuss a case outside the courtroom, right? Okay, well, let's bring Nathan Wade on in here and see if that'll loosen your lips up. Then you might be able to talk. Or we got to go to the crib? We got to go to the crib and then you'll feel comfortable talking in front of Nathan? This lack of transparency harms her constituents' trust, harms everybody's trust, and raises a lot of questions about her professional judgment. The judge overseeing the case may need to take measures to clarify the facts through evidentiary hearings if Willis continues to avoid addressing the allegations directly. Now, the judge has also instructed Willis to respond to the allegations by February 2nd, with a hearing scheduled for February 15th. However, Willis's handling of the situation has many supporters opting for silence. Yeah, that is how bad the church thing was. They prefer silence. And these are your supporters. Now, the legal term for this situation is a mess, and Willis's response has only exacerbated the situation. While the allegations are far from straightforward, the basic claim is that Willis and Wade may have been involved romantically, leading to potential conflicts of interest and financial improprieties. This suggests that the prosecution team has profited significantly from the case, raising questions about ethical considerations. Now, one crucial point to consider is that ethically, a romantic relationship between Willis and Wade is not inherently improper. However, the issue arises when it provides a plausible motive for the more serious allegations, such as the selection of an underqualified prosecutor for personal gain. And while it remains unclear whether or not these allegations hold true, Willis's handling of the controversy, let's just say, raises some significant concerns. Even the appearance of a conflict of interest can undermine public confidence in the case's outcome. The best practice for prosecutors facing such allegations is transparency, addressing the issues promptly and directly. And that is to say, unless you have absolutely nothing that's not damning to say in response to the allegations. Basically, you had people that were ready to not believe the sky is blue and water is wet when it comes to Trump, and you just gave them a reason not to. Thanks, Fonnie. The potential fallout for Trump hinges on the judge's assessment of the facts and relevant legal and ethical considerations. If the allegations prove true, Willis's office may be disqualified from handling the prosecution, potentially reassigning the case to another prosecutor in the state. And how's that gonna go? How's that go? Hey, anybody want the case prosecuting the former president whose vows a vendetta against anybody who tries to stand against him, and also was already being given away because Fonnie Willis had to give her boo-boo the job? Anybody? Who want Fonnie Willis' case? Anybody? Who out here? They gonna have to auction that case off at Old Country Buffet. Now, as the controversy unfolds, Willis is urged to address the allegations openly and promptly to maintain public trust and ensure a fair legal process. Oh, wait, there's more. Just last week, President Trump's lead attorney, Steve Sadow, accused Willis of attempting to foment racial animus. This was his statement. Quote, "The motion filed today on behalf of President Trump seeks to hold District Attorney Willis legally accountable both for the misconduct alleged in a motion filed by Mr. Roman, as well as her extrajudicial public statements falsely and intentionally injecting race into this case. Her attempt to foment racial animus and prejudice against the defendants in order to divert and deflect attention away from her alleged improprieties calls out for the sanctions of dismissal and disqualification." You did this because you just had to get Bay a job, even though none of what you did or none of what's been alleged you did had to do with race. You just had to bring black people into it for what? For what? None of the historical trauma that we have suffered had nothing to do with you offering a job laying pillow side. Nothing. But thank you, you just gave them a reason to feel like they're racially aggrieved. Well done. Oh wait, what's that? The guy from Dilbert weighed in on the Texas border situation? He said men live in a continual state of violence. That's crazy. Okay, I guess that's next. Keep it locked here to the Reese Waters channel. I will be here with your street politics every single week. And don't forget to like the video.
Thirty percent they went up. The biggest increase in history. It was then. Not really.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with y'all? You niggas are crazy.
President Joe Biden gave his last State of the Union address before the election last night, and all I have to say is ghetto. Oh, the GOP is ghetto. But first things first, Biden was energized. In fact, so much so, Trump was inspired to tell on himself. Here's a pro tip. Never be the first one to mention drugs. Biden, on the other hand, never mentioned Trump at all.
A president, my predecessor,
out here acting like Trump is Voldemort or R. Kelly. We just not gonna mention his name at all. Now, Biden, he coughed a lot.
Benefit millions of lives all across America.
But that was to be expected.
Better America.
As was Republican haterism throughout the speech. Let's be honest, whatever party holds the White House, they act like everything out of his mouth is the first time they ever heard Thriller, while the other side sounds like they overhearing a freestyle at the barbershop from Lil Yachty. But we can't even stand for curing cancer, MAGA Mike?
That we can do big things, like end cancer as we know it, and we will.
Cold-blooded. And Dems, you got your next ad. But I actually felt bad for Mike Johnson up there trying to keep a straight face while these badass kids, also known as his caucus, acts a fool.
That he owes to American people, the duty to care. I think that's unforgivable.
But it got worse.
Year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up. The biggest increase in history. It was then, through no...
Look at Mike's face. Like, boy, if you don't sit your ass down, don't you embarrass me in front of these people. I done told you.
Year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up. The biggest increase in history. But
this is my favorite. Look at Kamala Harris's face, though. Mwah, beautiful. Like, who let the riffraff in? That is the dismissive condescension of a black woman watching the very stereotype you pin her with.
Year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up. The biggest increase in history.
I have seen more decorum at an Eagles game after they melted down. Angry white men. It's sad, really. You know what? We need more fathers in the home. That's what we know, because they don't have enough positive male role models. But nobody, I mean nobody, embarrasses themselves like Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Citizen, I'm a gun owner. I have a concealed carry permit. I carry a gun for protection for myself, and you are using your lobby and the money behind it and the kids to try to take away my Second Amendment rights. You don't have anything to say for yourself?
Sorry, that was the wrong clip. That was her harassing Parkland teen survivors.
Why don't you go talk about Jewish space lasers, and really, why don't you fuck off? How about that?
Sorry, that was also the wrong clip. That was earlier in the week. Now, there we go. This is how she attended the State of the Union. Now, you might be asking yourselves, everybody dresses up for this occasion. Why would she come out here looking like Prince Hakeem from Coming to America? And you would be right. In fact, as Congressman Jamie Raskin let us know, this is in fact against the rules. But apparently she asked to speak to the manager, and he okayed her sitting in the crowd looking like a hateful Walmart greeter.
Mr. President, look over here. Mr. President.
Yeah, Joe, that's how we all reacted when we saw a U.S. Congresswoman dressed like Georgia's biggest Girl Scout at the State of the Union address. We've all been there before. You go out in public and you see somebody out of the corner of your eye just got a touch of the Marjorie Taylor Greens, what do? You just go about your business and try and avoid eye contact. Wasn't that sister the most talkative woman in the room? Lady, don't you see? We trying to avoid Satan's safety patrol over here. Let Joe keep moving.
I'd be a winner.
Ah, thank you. I mean, what she wears is one thing, but at least she shows the proper respect and dignity for the occasion and the office.
I'd be a winner. Not really. Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand.
By the way, Joe, it was Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley is about to get mopped up in the Big Ten. But I digress. Help me with something, Republicans. Aren't y'all supposed to be conservatives, looking to uphold American values and standards?
Duty to care. I think that's unforgivable. 30% they went up. The biggest increase in history. Really.
Well, when did y'all become this ghetto? Never mind, we know it was 2016. Well, at least you feel some remorse after the fact.
But here's what offended me. Here's what I found to be outrageous.
Here's what offended you. Here's what offended you. You made all of America watch you interrupt the president dressed like a MAGA trash can. And you're offended?
But here's what offended me. Here's what I found to be outrageous is Sergeant at Arms came up and told me that I needed to take the hat off. And I said, I'm not taking the hat off. I refused to take it off. And he said, well, it's decorum. I said, I certainly understand. You do what you need to do. I'll pay a fine. I'll do whatever, a warning, whatever there is. But I'm not taking the hat off. And he said, well, you're going to have to leave, or we're going to take you out. And I was like, you can haul me out of here. Go ahead and try it, but I'm not taking this hat off. And I told him, I'm elected by my district. This is the people's house. I will wear this hat. I will wear it here in the House floor because my district supports President Trump, supports Make America Great Again policies, and supports me wearing this hat. I'm not taking it off, and I'm not leaving.
Well, Sergeant at Arms needs to be Sergeant Unemployment. I mean, what good are the rules if you don't enforce them? That's like having a whole tax code and the rich people not abiding by it.
Republicans can cut Social Security and give more tax breaks to the wealthy. That's the proposal. Oh no, you guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear.
I'm honestly surprised Lauren Boebert didn't raise a stink. We know her and Green rolled together. And she is not afraid of the law. And she will make a scene in public. What was she up to this whole time? Well, at least we know where her hands were.
Hold on. In West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playground is where I spend most of my days. Okay. Chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool and all, shooting some b-ball outside of school. When a couple of guys, they were up to no good, started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got in one little fight.
I am having the blackest week ever.
No, 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 no. We are not doing this. Noted hate watch Candace Owens just lost her gig over at the Daily Wire. And I can't celebrate that because the Daily Wire is led by Ben Shapiro. And quite frankly, every day without Ben Shapiro is a good day. It's actually on my daily checklist. The other reason I can't celebrate it is because I think she actually did say some pretty legitimate things on restrictions placed on journalists, especially in mainstream media, on how they discuss the Middle East that led directly to her downfall. Of course, that was after she staked her reputation that the French First Lady was a man. So can't say all gambles are good ones. But I'm here to talk about this.
Hold on. In West Philadelphia, born and raised, on the playground is where I spend most of my days.
Okay.
Chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool and all, shooting some b-ball outside of school. When a couple of guys, they were up to no good, started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got in one little fight.
And this.
I am having the blackest week ever.
Nope. We're not doing this. I'm not going. And looking for her next grift, Owens is starting down a well-worn path previously travailed by the likes of Omarosa and Stacey Dash.
She got with Trump because of money. She sold her soul, and now she's trying to sell him down the river, and she's trying to make money for a book. Everything's very calculated with Omarosa, but she could be the one thing that brings him down.
I've lived my life being angry. Which was what I was on Fox News. I was the angry, conservative black woman.
So you want to drag black people for profit, and then when the money dries up, just send us the "Hey Big Head" text to see if it's cool to come over. You know what? Not my crib. Coincidentally, you picked the right platforms, places that will be happy to platform you and unable or unwilling to break you down. You texted the dudes you knew would have the door unlocked because they always got the door unlocked. Well played. But Roland Martin is still waiting for you to accept his challenge to come on his show. Now, I would say I'm disappointed these outlets platformed her nonsense, but then look at what else they platform. 9 out of my 10 favorite Breakfast Club moments involve a threat to lay on hands.
This broke I swear to God.
Now, Ray J, just one question, though.
When I hit Slay, he ain't going to be able to even stay in his own town because I got some goons out there that's going to get him, too.
All right, Ray J, but let me ask you something. You know that Fab jokes around on Twitter all the time.
That nigga.
These are not places for nuanced political discussions, and that's why she goes there. She's ducking real smoke like Sean O'Malley. Yeah, you never heard of Sean O'Malley? Yeah, okay, that's actually good. That was a test to see how many of you guys still watch the UFC after they platformed Donald Trump's tiny hands at every big card. Well, at least his grandson is getting some good memories. But are y'all really about to let Candace Owens back in the cookout? I want to get way out ahead of this, like extensions level out ahead of this. Now, I would never be the arbiter of somebody else's blackness because I reject anybody's attempt to be the arbiter of mine. But a few things I want y'all to consider. First, didn't you make a documentary to exonerate Derek Chauvin and in it demonize George Floyd as if Chauvin was carrying out some kind of sentence? Because that has to be it, right? Because otherwise, what relevance did any of it have? But then you double down on the nonsense on your podcast, threatening to sue George Floyd's family, saying I have grounds to sue George Floyd's family for doing this little PR stunt. Now, this all goes back to Kanye spreading lies from your documentary about George Floyd's death and his family having to send a cease and desist letter, exactly how they want to spend their time. You called it a PR stunt. A PR for what? They got an album coming out? Are they dropping a shoe line? You know what? Never mind. Don't answer that. I got way more. Speaking of Kanye, wasn't this you with the White Lives Matter shirt on? Yeah, that was cute. And no, it wasn't done ironically, as we would react to that now. This was back when the All Lives Matter crowd was active, but you just had to take it that whole extra step. Like when denouncing Juneteenth, that wasn't enough for you to call out Juneteenth. You had to call it, quote, so ghetto. Because you know your crowd just loves to call us ghetto. But look, I'm doing it. Pick me. Here's another doozy. Black Lives Matter supports criminals. Hashtag Blexit supports police officers. We're working on building out a fund that will go live tomorrow for officers that are unjustly terminated. Can somebody please give me the name of the officer that was fired for the hashtag Rayshard Brooks incident? A fund for officers unjustly terminated. You know, for those who just slipped through the cracks of qualified immunity and the blind blue wall of both silence and union support. You know the thing that's most likely to get you unjustly terminated from the police force? Turning in a fellow officer. That is the thing most likely to get you unjustly terminated from the police force. By the way, how did that whole hashtag Blexit thing work out for you? Hopefully better than that anti-woke bank that you endorsed. It was Glorify, wasn't it? Glorify, where CEO Toby Negbauer, and he really should have stuck with Kunta, wanted to offer home insurance discounts to gun owners, credit cards made of shell casing material, and legal bill assistance if customers shot someone in self-defense. Yeah, because that's what everybody wants from their bank. Militarism. That was you, right? That was you, right? Free to celebrate your love of God and country without fear of cancellation. That was the tagline, right? But it looks like that website has gone 404. Cancellation one again. Just like that Alabama GoFundMe you touted for the Birmingham cafe owner who wanted to charge a protest tax after George Floyd, who he called a thug. But to be fair, he did say he didn't deserve to die. So there's that, which then begs the question, why isn't that the whole point? Why isn't that the whole point? What does him being a thug have to do with anything if he didn't deserve to die? But I suppose that's too obvious a point. You know what? While we're being fair, I wouldn't hold you personally responsible for the mass shooting in Christchurch, New Zealand, which cost over 50 people their lives, despite that the perpetrator mentioned you in his manifesto, stating, quote, "The person that has influenced me above all was Candace Owens." However, didn't you turn around and blame LeBron and Black Lives Matter for the shooting of LA sheriff's deputies? In fact, you specifically referenced a tweet where LeBron denounced the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, saying, why does this happen? Because pea-brain celebrities that are idolized, like King James, tell young black men that they are literally being hunted. This is the natural result of such hyperbolic, dishonest rhetoric. The racist, anti-police, Black Lives Matter lie is to blame. So which is it? I mean, you can't have it both ways, you know, like marrying into low-level British nobility, then denouncing Harry and Meghan as overprivileged while they're on a philanthropic trip to Africa. You know, the royals, all of the levels above your husband who renounce their titles. So they must be just overprivileged by virtue of their mere association with the crown. So what does that make you? And what did you renounce? What did you bring to Africa other than shame? Do you even have a title or they just call you Mammy? It sounds to me like somebody can't handle the female lead from Suits outranking her. I know. It's not actually about the title. It's about the melanin. You would never talk spicy about Kate Middleton. Wow. Meghan Markle made it to Buckingham Palace without any of the groveling, bootlicking, and her edges intact. She must be a witch, right? And didn't you take your behind to Congress as the face denouncing white nationalism, saying you wouldn't even rank it in your top 100 issues, and the real issue is black on black crime and a lack of masculinity in men? Wow, so creative, this one. So we got so far into the sunken place with you, when I saw that, I just moved on. It wasn't even notable to me that a black woman was being used to defend and deflect from white nationalism because that someone was you. But apparently Richard Spencer and Steve Bannon didn't get their money's worth because they trotted you back out there to claim the Southern strategy wasn't a thing. You know, the GOP campaign strategy to increase support from white Southern voters by subtly endorsing racial segregation, discrimination, and the disenfranchisement of black voters, which quite frankly, sounds a lot like 2024 election materials. I'll be honest. I think I saw that on a commercial. I'm just playing. Y'all know Trump can't afford commercials. You tried to convince us that this whole thing never happened.
Over and over again about black conservatives when they have the audacity to think for themselves and become educated about our history and the myth of things like the Southern Switch and the Southern Strategy, which never happened.
Despite the fact that Reagan White House operative Lee Atwater admitted to all of it way back in 1981. And here we have the perfect distillation of Candace Owens. If we can't admit to something that happened 60 years ago, that was admitted to 40 years ago, and still continues today, your grift is exposed for all the world to see. Most people would be ashamed to go on. But nevertheless, you persisted. You chased every dollar they had to give to cover their anti-blackness. But finally, the financial future of the fraud looks a lot like, well, glorify. And you want to dip your toe back in black water. Well, I know you struggle with the lyrics to Good Times. That was understandable. You got to grow up in a black home to know that one. But here's one you may know, being the smooth criminal that you are. We told you, don't you ever come around here. Don't want to see your face. You better disappear. Self-hatred's in her eyes and her words are really clear. So beat it. Just beat it. You better run, you better do what you can. Don't want to see no blood, don't be no macho man. You want to be tough, better do what you can. So beat it. But you want to be bad, always beat it. Always beat it. No one wants to be defeated out loud.
You don't exist. Like, you're even lower than the Jews. A, you're black, and B, you're gay.
Welcome to your Racist of the Week update with me, Reese Waters. Now, we come here every week in order to expose the stupidity and the hypocrisy of discrimination in order to build a more perfect union and also laugh. I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. Now, there's been so many stories that we've done that now we're starting to have updates and changing and evolution in some of the stories that we covered. So I thought I would take the time to update some of the previous entries that we've had right here in Racist of the Week, starting with Julianna Margulies. Yeah, you remember when Snakes on a Plane actress Julianna Margulies lost her whole ass mind and spewed unbelievable racist hate on Backroom with Andy Ostroy? Yeah, well, the host remarked that, quote, people hate Jews, talking about the anti-Semitism as it pertains to the Israel-Hamas war. And Margulies, well, she took the ball and ran with it and then fumbled repeatedly.
In the civil rights movement, the Jews were the ones that walked side by side with the blacks to fight for their rights because they know. And now the black community isn't embracing us and saying we stand with you the way you stood with us. Jews died for their cause. Where's the history lesson in that? Who's teaching these kids? Because the fact that the entire black community isn't standing with us, to me, says either they just don't know, or they've been brainwashed to hate Jews. You know, there was a film being shown by this black lesbian club on Columbia campus, and they put signs up that said "No Jews allowed." And as someone who plays a lesbian journalist on the morning show, I'm more offended by it as a lesbian than I am as a Jew, to be honest with you, because I want to say to them, you fucking idiots. You don't exist. Like, you're even lower than the Jews. A, you're black, and B, you're gay. And you're turning your back against the people who support you.
Naturally, the heat came for Juliana and not the group in question. I mean, that's normal. You were a guest star on Homicide: Life on the Street, for goodness sakes. But they both did have something to say. Now, the Columbia University student group in question, Lionless, issued a statement clarifying their position. They deny anti-Semitism, saying that there was an email that was sent out that said no Zionists allowed, a distinction between criticizing the political ideology of Zionism and targeting Jewish people at large. The Columbia Spectator reports that Lionless internally considered the email and social media posts about Zionism, which were written by a former president, to be inappropriate. Lionless's statement emphasizes their opposition to all forms of discrimination, including anti-Semitism, Zionism, and other systems of oppression. Juliana Margulies, by the way, apologized for offending the Black and LGBTQIA people, stating, quote, "I am horrified by the fact that statements I made on a recent podcast offended the Black and LGBTQIA plus communities I truly love and respect." She said this in a statement to Deadline and the Washington Post. She also said, "I want to be 100% clear. Racism, homophobia, sexism, or any prejudice against anyone's personal beliefs or identity are abhorrent to me, full stop." However, she hasn't commented on Lionless's statement clarifying their position, and I do think that's one apology that should be as loud as any other, since she singled them out and tried to assassinate the character of the entire group. Now, speaking of apologies, quote, "I sincerely apologize to the Jewish community for any unplanned outbursts. It was not my intent to hurt or disrespect, and I very much regret any pain I may have caused." One guess who wrote that. The impossible appears possible. It has happened. Kanye West has issued an apology. Yes, Kanye ended up apologizing for his outbursts on social media last year. Also the posts and the rant and the hood, which I did talk about right here. Now, as much as I want to support any effort to take our power back, it rings kind of hollow from somebody who claims slavery was a choice, the culture was asleep, and that white lives matter. When last seen, Adidas had to offload Yeezys at the gas station because of comments you made about Jewish people. So the next move is to go with a black hood. Got it. I don't know whether to shake my head on behalf of black people or white people. How about both? And he made his apology on his Instagram in Hebrew. Now that is serious. Now I'll admit it is a bit odd for somebody who seemed to court and welcome the idea that Jews controlled the world to apologize. I mean, any consequences you could be facing, you said you could foresee. It's right there in your own words. You said you couldn't be canceled. I guess by that logic, he actually might mean it. Nah, we can't even get a straight answer on when his next project is coming out. He is not to be trusted, not even about himself, especially about himself. Kanye made a business decision in a whole nother language. But he did get a lifeline from Cat Williams, though. I mean, kinda.
I suspect that we're pretty awful people if we say that somebody got a mental illness and then we watch what they do. If you say somebody got special needs, then why would you be watching them and holding them accountable like everybody else? Wouldn't you grade them on a curve? Wouldn't you go, whew, this guy? Because, I mean, what are we reacting to? What are we reacting to? You're the one that put him in a position where he thought he was God and could call himself Jesus. And you're the one told a guy that writes musical lyrics that he was a genius. Mm-hmm. You're the one that's like, so what do you expect? The guy married a whore. Like, what?
Oh, Lord.
Like, I didn't mean it like that. I mean, married her because she was one.
I mean, while Cat did call his ex-wife a whore, he also said we might be bad people for watching and following what he does since we've ceded that he needs help. And yes, that appears to be Cat Williams coming through with the sober take that we all needed. Let's end on a positive, kind of, sort of. You remember that guy in Illinois who got convicted thanks to a blind witness? No physical evidence connected Harris to the shooting, But the judge relied heavily on the testimony of an eyewitness, Dexter Saffold. Saffold, who claimed he saw the shooting from a distance of fewer than 20 feet while riding his motorized scooter home, identified Harris as the perpetrator, both to the police and at trial. Although Judge Ford regarded Saffold's testimony as credible and sentenced Harris to 76 years. Shocking. And later emerged that Saffold had been declared legally blind by a doctor in 2002. Yes, no, not 2012, not 2022, but 2002, as in almost a decade before the trial. This Bama was legally blind for over 10 years, claiming he saw something. Also, what was he doing on a scooter? I mean, they should be arresting him because that sounds dangerous. I mean, he sounds like a menace. Well, Darian Harris has been freed. He's free. It's about time. His previous attorney discovered new evidence in 2018, but a review by the Conviction Integrity Unit initially found it inconclusive. Harris's lawyers filed a post-conviction petition highlighting evidence and constitutional violations. Cook County State's Attorney's Office decided not to retry Harris after reviewing the case again. I guess the DA saw the light. Now, 18 at the time of his arrest and conviction, 30-year-old Darian Harris spent 12 and a half years in prison. After years of appeals and investigations, prosecutors have dropped the charges and Harris was released. Mind you, this was the fourth wrongful conviction exoneration in Cook County in December. I'm gonna just run that back one more time. This was the fourth wrongful conviction exoneration in Cook County in 1 month. Raising all sorts of concerns about the criminal justice system. Forget concerns, throw the whole thing in the trash and start over. Cousins James Soto and David Ayala, who were wrongfully convicted in the 1981 murder of 2 Chicago teenagers, were freed on December 14th after spending 42 years behind bars. Brian Beals walked out of prison on December 12th after being wrongfully convicted of a crime in 1988. Glenn Simmons, by the way, spent 48 years in an Oklahoma prison over a wrongful murder conviction before being exonerated last year. And as of December 13th, 19 individuals who spent at least 25 years in prison prior to exoneration were released in 2023. Now, Harris expressed joy and determination to rebuild his life after the ordeal, saying, "I finally made it. 12 and a half years, I made it. I missed some of my best years, but man, I'm finna live some good years now." Rebuild his life. The state needs to rebuild his life for him. Pay that man's bills for the next 12 and a half years. That's the least you can do after throwing him in prison for nothing. Now, I'm happy to bring you these updates. I'll be continuing to follow all of the stories that I've covered here in my Racist of the Week and continuing to update and keep you abreast of any changes there may be. And make sure you keep it locked right here to the channel at Reese Waters. Make sure you give me a like and subscribe so that you get notifications whenever new videos come out. But we are right here every single Saturday with our Racist of the Week. Stay tuned. She voted for the former President Donald Trump because she was tired of the racial divisions of the Obama era. Wait a minute. That can't be right. Hold on. The racial divisions of the... Are you serious? Welcome to your Racist of the Week update, where I highlight some changes to the stories previously featured here on Racist of the Week to continue to expose the stupidity and hypocrisy of discrimination in hopes we can build a more perfect union. And also laugh. As usual, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the page, and definitely leave me any additional updates or requests for stories that you would like to see refreshed in the comments below. Y'all ready? Because we got one to start. So, y'all remember when Nikki Haley...
Please, what was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way.
Thank you. And then in the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery? Next question.
Well, then there was the time that she said,
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
huh?
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
Huh?
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
Come again?
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
One more time.
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
All of this making her the first two-time winner of Racist of the Week. Well, with an honor like that, you would think she would have to go on The Breakfast Club to clean things up a bit, you know, like set the record straight on the kind of person that she really is. And she did that. Well, she didn't clean things up, but we do know who she really is. Amongst other things, she downplayed the racism that was involved in the AME church shooting in Charleston, South Carolina when she was governor, where 9 black parishioners were murdered by white supremacist Dylan Roof, saying, quote, the national media came in and they wanted to define this. They wanted to make it about guns. They wanted to make it about racism. They wanted to make it about the death penalty. And when Charlemagne the God prodded her that it was in fact about racism, she added, no, it was. But the point was, I strong-armed them and said there'll be a time we talk about all that. But right now we have 9 souls we need to put to rest. I didn't have that luxury because 2 days later, the killer came out draped in the Confederate flag. Nikki, what you even talking about? Like what are you even talking about? You just said you didn't have time, you had to lay them to rest, but then the killer came out draped in the Confederate flag. At that point, wouldn't you feel like you have to address the racism involved? And if now wasn't the time, and clearly years later isn't the time, when is the time? When is the time to talk about it, Nikki? Apparently, we haven't even reached the time to talk about racist role in the Civil War.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
150 plus years later. So exactly when were you going to come around to talking about racist role in it? And no, wait, it gets better or worse. Later, she told DJ Envy that she voted for the former president, Donald Trump, because she was tired of the racial divisions of the Obama era. Wait a minute. That can't be right. Hold on. The racial divisions of the... Are you serious? The racial divisions of... Oh, okay. So the divisions were Obama's fault. Oh, I got it. It was Obama's fault for the division. So all of the birtherism was his fault for being black. And the rise in white supremacist movements all over the country, that was his fault for being black. And the monkey cartoons, yeah, that was his fault for being monkey colored. Michelle being called a man, I guess that was her fault for actually filling out a dress. That is quite the blank check that you gave white people. No matter what happens, it is other people's fault. No wonder you don't think slavery had a role in the Civil War. You probably think blacks weren't working hard enough. Oh, that all makes quite a bit of sense. And I'm sure you think that the racism that your own family faced was your fault. Like, you probably do think that. You probably do think it was your fault. All right. There was so much that it was hard to pick just a few. But I do have to give you this one. She was asked, quote, when you look at the inequalities in America in education, home ownership, employment and wealth, healthcare, Can you admit that America is systemically and structurally a racist country? Now, this was, of course, on the heels of her claiming that America has never been racist, which, by the way, was a topic for a whole episode of Racist of the Week. So she was asked, can you admit that America is systemically and structurally a racist country? To which she says, I think culture has a lot to do with it, right? Right. You think they're going to agree with something like that? You think culture has a lot to do with it? Okay, so when they were doing redlining, I guess they were going through the black communities and making sure that everybody who had the right culture could move into the white neighborhoods and the ones that didn't couldn't. Is that what it is? Like all the black people that had the right culture got the FHA loans and everybody else couldn't? Is that what you're talking about? And moreover, I'm pretty sure that places like Tulsa and Rosewood had exactly the right culture you're talking about, and they were destroyed. If for no other reason, because they had that culture, and also they were turning over money hand over fist. So it seems that when that culture is achieved, you find a way to destroy it. And yet you point to culture as the reason why black people haven't advanced. What a trick bag you just created there. I'm gonna have to do a whole separate video on this. So you mean to tell me you can systematically extract wealth from black families for generations, place it in the hands of whites, and then talk about culture? Because culture is never affected by economics, right? It's never, yeah, it's not. We're just a monolith, regardless of our financial means as are whites. So that makes a whole lot of sense. That's one of the things they love to do. They say, oh no, it's not about race, it's about culture. It's not about race, this is about money, this is fine. Oh yeah, because money and finances is never about race, right? It's never about race, never tied into that. Don't let them fool you. That brings me to my next update, and we're staying in South Carolina. See, Nikki Haley, this is what you leave behind when you lead with that level of ignorance. So y'all remember that couple in Conway, South Carolina got picked up and charged for burning a cross? A white couple from Conway, South Carolina was arrested for erecting and setting fire to a cross outside their black neighbor's home over Thanksgiving weekend. In addition, Butler allegedly posted the black couple's address on Facebook and wrote that he planned to summon the devil's army. And I don't care if they and I both go down in the same boat. I'm about to make them pay. That's according to USA Today. It's funny he used boat because he definitely could not afford a boat. And let me say, my favorite threats are the ones that are posted on Facebook, because not only is there a paper trail, but I know you're really behind on things and you're not going to get around to attacking me until at least your Vine account gets set up. Now, Butler and Harnett were arrested in December and charged with second-degree harassment. Additionally, federal investigations into civil rights violations are underway, but the severity of their actions has prompted a special prosecutor, James Battle, to file a petition declaring Butler and Harnett's residence a public nuisance. 15th Circuit Solicitor Jimmy Richardson has requested a judge to approve a temporary injunction for the immediate eviction of the couple. The proposal suggests boarding up the residence until the case is officially heard in court. And to that I say, what home? What home? Why is this couple even at home? What does Joe Dirt, Bonnie, and Clyde gotta do to get locked up no bail? Because, I mean, look at this couple. Does it look like they paid bail? And I do, though, find it ironic, though, I must say this, that they might lose their home after burning lumber. I mean, that is ironic. I mean, they wasted all that fine craftsmanship they might need very soon. So if I were you, Butler and Harnett, I better go ahead and ask that black family if they still have that cross. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for future updates and future editions of Racist of the Week. And of course, let me know if there are any stories that you think we should feature below in the comments. Yes, I know I have a turtleneck on. I like turtlenecks. Student will participate and listen to a book written by an African American. Oh no, we can't have that. Welcome to a special Florida edition of Racist of the Week, where we expose the stupidity and hypocrisy of Florida in hopes we can build a more perfect union and also laugh. As usual, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the page, and definitely leave me any possible suggestions for nominees in the comments, especially if they're from Florida. Our first nominee, Florida State Representative Alex Andrade. As part of a broader initiative led by Governor Ron DeSantis to restrict the teaching of critical race theory, i.e. black stuff, and similar concepts in Florida's public schools, and by similar concepts, I mean black stuff, Florida State Rep. Alex Andrade wanted to make sure he got this into the official record.
But if we can't have an honest discussion and say that some slaves were paid for their work and were able to actually get a portion of payment that slave owners received for their labor, then we're afraid of teaching accurate history. If you were not aware that some slaves received payment, not payment that was good, not payment that was valid, not payment that was moral. But if we can't even have that discussion in this room, what hope do we have to teach and actually agree on facts?
Now, let me first say, what the hell is wrong with you? What good is being paid? You know what? Hold on a minute. Let me gather my thoughts. When you're still a slave, what good is being paid when you are still a slave? You think they could just mosey on down to the general store and just spend that money willy-nilly? Oh, no, boss, no work today. I'm headed down to the juke joint tonight at the plantation across the way. While it is true, there are historical records of some slaves being paid, it was so rare, it would be like telling my son, well, you know, me and your mama both breastfed you. I mean, he tried it once or twice. It didn't work. We both moved on. At least I think we did. He hasn't tried that in a minute. Hopefully he's done with it. There are more examples. In fact, many more records of slaves being assaulted. Them and us. Why isn't that in the record? We never talk about that, do we? But this is something you just gotta mention. Now, first it was DeSantis saying that slaves learned valuable skills, you know, when they got to hit the free market after their contracts ran out. You know, I knew one slave, he played out his contract. Yeah, and then Massa tried to franchise tag him, but he said he would sit out till he hit free agency, and Baltimore just gave him the bag.
I think what they're doing is I think that they're probably gonna show some of the folks that eventually parlayed being a blacksmith into doing things later in life. But the reality is all of that is rooted in whatever is factual. I mean, these were scholars who put that together. It was not anything that was done politically.
So first it was DeSantis saying slaves learned valuable skills. Now they were paid. You really are turning this into an unpaid internship, aren't you? Just a nice little summer job during the break from Africa. You know what? Let's hear that clip again.
But if we can't have an honest discussion and say that some slaves were paid for their work and were able to actually get a portion of payment that slave owners received for their labor, then we're afraid of teaching accurate history. If you were not aware that some slaves received payment, not payment that was good, not payment that was valid, not payment that was moral. But if we can't even have that discussion in this room, what hope do we have to teach and actually agree on facts?
By your own admission, it wasn't payment that was good, not payment that was valid, and not payment that was moral. So what are we even talking about then? Now, the bill in question, known as CSHB 1291, seeks to curtail courses that delve into systemic racism, sexism, oppression, and privilege within America's institutions, sadly making Florida's children unfit to work in, with, or remotely understand America's institutions. Florida Democratic Party Chair Nikki Fried said in a statement, quote, "Florida Republicans are hell-bent on teaching our children that slavery wasn't bad." Rep. Andrade's comments today are just the latest example of the GOP's obsession with whitewashing history. Any answer that tries to justify or whitewash the evils of slavery should be considered disqualifying for office. And guess what? It used to be, but so did running for the White House under 91 cases and a failed insurrection under your belt. We live in different times. Now, Florida State Rep. Ashley Gant responded on social media, "The atmosphere in the House chamber is so insulting and disrespectful. White men telling me I may not be aware of facts about the enslavement of my people. Who the F do these people think they are?" You know what? I'll tell you exactly who they think they are, Ashley Gant. White men. Oh, wait, there's more. Our next nominee, Governor Ron DeSantis. A Miami-Dade County parent expressed outrage after allegedly being required to sign a permission slip for his daughter to participate in a read-aloud event featuring an African-American speaker. Chuck Walter, a parent at Coral Way K-8 Bilingual Center, voiced his frustration and shared the clip on social media. You know what? Let me take a look at that. It says read aloud in the library. Student will participate and listen to a book written by an African American. Oh no, we can't have that. Not an African American. They might get indoctrinated. I mean, how long is this? It says 30 minutes? No, 30 minutes. No, that's crazy talk. Not my little girl. Not my little girl. We walk down the street and we see an African American, we just keep it pushing. You never know. Now, some of you are thinking, well, maybe this is just something they do. This isn't about it being written by an African American. Then why was it on the slip then? Why was it necessary to note that? Why doesn't it just say a read aloud? And yes, that's me, an African American, asking you that question. Hopefully that is okay. We'll send you a digital permission slip for you to watch this video. And in this case, we have receipts because he said unequivocally he's never had to sign a permission slip for either child to participate in similar events in the past. Now, the introduction of permission slips for educational activities is attributed to Florida's Parental Rights in Education law, signed by Governor Ron DeSantis in 2022. The bill is closely related to his Individual Freedom Act, otherwise known as the Stop Woke Act, which DeSantis signed to prohibit Florida employers from speaking on diversity, equity, and inclusion topics during workplace trainings. Now, Miami-Dade Public Schools responded to the controversy, saying, quote, "We realize that the description of the event may have caused confusion, and we are working with our schools to reemphasize the importance of clarity for parents in describing activities and events that would require parental permission. However, in compliance with state law, permission slips were sent home because guest speakers would participate during a school-authorized education-related activity." And to that I say, clarity wasn't the issue. You made yourselves quite clear. In fact, there was an overabundance of communication and clarity. I know exactly what time it is, and in Florida, it is 1863. By the way, black folks aren't taking any of this lying down. Did you hear about the possible boycott of the University of Florida by black athletes? Yeah, check out the video in the link. And if you have somebody you would like to nominate, you could leave it in the comments, or you can always email me at reese.waters@gmail.com. As several of you have, I appreciate that. Be sure to subscribe to the page and turn on your notifications so you know right when the next video drops. Are you offended at the authentic depiction of what black folks actually went through in this country? Welcome to Racist of the Week, where we expose the stupidity and hypocrisy of discrimination in hopes we can build a more perfect union. And also laugh. As usual, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the page, and definitely leave me any possible suggestions for nominees in the comments. Our first nominee, Charlotte West High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. In an attempt to commemorate Black History Month, Charlotte West High School ignited controversy displaying these decorations that upset the local community. Now, the display consisted of two doors labeled colored entrance and white entrance, accompanied by a sign reading Sears Department Store 1930, evoking the era of racial segregation, and also Beverly Hills, current day. The intention behind the display was to educate students about the harsh realities of segregation in the early to mid 1900s and Long Island, current day. However, it faced severe backlash from the school district and the public. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little bit conflicted by this because on the one hand, yes, it is jarring, but on the other hand, it is authentic. I mean, yes, this is offensive, but at the same time, this isn't stuff that in many jurisdictions that they can teach because it involves racism and some people feeling bad about themselves. I have to ask you, who exactly was offended by this? If it was the Black students that was offended, that's one thing. Or is it y'all, the administration, the people that are forced to confront their own histories? Is that who was offended? Are you offended at the authentic depiction of what Black folks actually went through in this country? Is that what offends you? And by the way, the irony isn't lost on me that it's offensive to show and depict, but not offensive to have respect for the people that actually went through it, to honor their experiences. That's not offensive. Now, Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools issued a statement to WCCB TV expressing their disapproval, saying, "The school district is required to provide social studies and history lessons to all our students in an age-appropriate manner. Teachers at West Charlotte High School decorated doors that displayed inappropriate content. The activity is not aligned to state standards or with CMS curriculum and approved lesson plans." Now, first, I gotta stop you at age appropriate. So the issue is that it was not age appropriate. This is a high school. So exactly when would learning about segregation be age appropriate? I asked you. And you said it doesn't align with the state standards. Why does it not align with the state standards? Because of the display or because it involves talking about racism? Is that why it doesn't align with the state standards? I got more issues with the response than the display itself. Now, once school leadership was made aware, the display was immediately removed. This happened over the course of a few hours on February 14th. And yes, it was Valentine's Day. Obviously, you can feel the love. They said moving forward, the district's teachers will be retrained in the specific social studies curriculum practices that can be utilized in lesson plans to teach students. So how's that retraining go? No white and colored doors? We don't talk about Sears? Is that where that retraining goes? And good luck, by the way, moving forward and covering this era in American history and not talking about racism. See, the thing about Jackie Robinson is he wasn't allowed to play in Major League Baseball. No. It wasn't a race thing. It was his uniform, because he wouldn't clean his uniform properly. And also, he was chewing, his dip was too strong. That dip that he was chewing was way too strong, because you know how they are. You know how they are with the contraband. Now, to think, this teacher was so close to evoking the great Jane Elliott, who, if you're unaware, the day after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., conducted a blue eyes, brown eyes experiment with her third grade class in April of 1968 to show them the effects of racism, and in my opinion, was groundbreaking. Because the only blue eyes I trust is Chris Hemsworth. Thor kept it real. And also Reese Witherspoon, because Reese is above everything. Our next nominee, Fort Worth, Texas. Yeah, I'm putting the whole city down until the culprit is identified and brought to justice. Add door-to-door salesman while black to the list of people we can't... Huh? Which is door-to-door salesman while black is already there? It's been put there a couple times? Okay. We'll circle it on the list then. Circle it and underline door-to-door while black. Put an asterisk. A Texas door-to-door salesman narrowly avoided a fatal gunshot in early February during a racially motivated attack. The salesman, employed by Reliant Energy, came across a neighbor who shouted racial slurs and then fired at him while he was discussing electricity plans. Now, this is my issue. So you open the door, first of all, for a door-to-door salesman. So first of all, I question your judgment. Second of all, was this planned? It had to have been planned for you to open the door for a door-to-door salesman, but you went all the way through with the ruse to actually discuss electricity plans? Tell the truth, racist guy. You was interested a little bit, wasn't you? Yeah, you was interested a little bit. You're like, oh man, this black, is that, oh, they discussing energy. You know, that's just what we was talking about. Let me get some good information. Yeah, before I racially attack, let me get some good information on my electricity situation. You almost forgot that you were there to racially attack, didn't you? Tell the truth. Now, apparently, the assailant confronted the salesman, pointed a firearm directly at him, and fired a shot. Miraculously, the salesman's work tablet, which he happened to be wearing around his stomach, absorbed the impact of the bullet, saving his life. And I need to know what kind of tablet that was. I mean, that is the best marketing I could ever think of. Was it a Microsoft Surface? No, it had to have been one of those. It was a BlackBerry Playbook, wasn't it? It was a BlackBerry Playbook, because anybody I know that's gotten the BlackBerry Playbook says it's basically a brick. The salesman shared, he just came out and just straight pointed the barrel at me and then shot me and told me to get away from here. I'm lucky it didn't hit me. It hit the tablet. The tablet screen was completely shattered by the bullet, serving as a shield against a potentially fatal shot. He didn't answer whether or not his data was saved, but I'm guessing it was. After escaping the scene, so wait, this man only fired one time? So wait a minute, you are ready to go down for murder. Like, you gonna point a gun directly at somebody and take a shot and then just let them run away? I mean, I'm glad you let them run away, but that begs the question, were you prepared for the weight of your actions when you pulled your piece and decided to pull the trigger? Clearly you were not. Now, the salesman promptly contacted the police despite no one being found inside the home. Upon police arrival, an arrest warrant has been issued for the homeowner, who the salesman saw face to face. The charges include aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and hate crime charges. Further charges may be added as the salesman was seemingly targeted without posing any threat, unless you accuse trying to sign somebody up for a better electricity deal threatening. This is all according to Fort Worth police. Further charges need to be added, because ain't no aggravated assaults when you shoot into my chest. No, they have names for that. The salesman, who thus far has chosen to remain anonymous, conveyed his fear of such an incident happening, especially given his role as a door-to-door salesman for the past 10 years, saying, quote, "This is the one thing I always fear, getting shot at the door, and today it happened. I got 2 daughters. I could have been in a hospital right now," he revealed in an interview. I'm telling you, it is hard enough just walking around living life as a black person. Don't have to go visit somebody in a neighborhood that you don't know. The timeline is fraught with caring experiences from us being in neighborhoods that we've never been in before. Now imagine being a door-to-door salesman. I'm telling you, black door-to-door salesmen should come with hazard pay. They should get time and a half just based on the actions of people like this. Now, Reliant, who's the employer of the salesman, is actively cooperating with law enforcement to investigate the incident, as confirmed by a company spokesman in a statement. And a quick update on the Jackie Robinson statue, which was stolen from the Wichita, Kansas park, which I addressed in the last edition. So apparently the group responsible were metal scrappers, and the statue was burned in order to sell it. So they went to a public park took a statue of a beloved figure locally and nationally and decided that was the metal that they wanted to burn in order to sell it. You know, I was less mad when I thought they were racist. I'm gonna be dead real with you. I was less mad when I thought that they were racist. That's the sense that makes. But I'll actually have more updates coming in the next few days, the stories that we covered here. So be on the lookout for that. And if you have somebody you would like to nominate, go ahead and leave it in the comments, or you can email me at reese.waters@gmail.com, and be sure to subscribe to the page and make sure you get notified when the next video drops. He should have a pen that says, "I stole and then burned" the Jackie Robinson statue in 2024. Welcome to Racist of the Week, where we expose the stupidity and hypocrisy of discrimination in hopes we can build a more perfect union. And also laugh. As usual, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the page, and definitely leave me any possible suggestions for nominees in the comments. Our first nominee, this guy. Wichita police have made an arrest in the theft and destruction of the Jackie Robinson statue from a Wichita, Kansas park. The incident, which occurred a few weeks ago, involved the theft and subsequent burning of the Jackie Robinson statue, an act that not only dishonored an important figure in American history, but also resulted in significant financial loss. According to the Wichita Police Department, the statue was valued at $75,000, which I would say, given that they burned something that was valued at $75,000, kind of speaks to their motives. My thought, who destroys a Jackie Robinson statue? In 2024, a Jackie Robinson statue? I thought that Jackie Robinson had entered that Martin Luther King zone of black people, where all of America pretends like he was beloved, despite the fact that they all but terrorized him when he was alive. And it's a good person whose name to bring up to get yourself out of trouble when you said something cross about black people. I thought he had entered the MLK zone. You know what? For burning a Jackie Robinson statue in 2024, you deserve to be arrested during Black History Month. And I want to know what he tells people in jail he got arrested for. He should have a pen that says, "I stole and then burned the Jackie Robinson statue in 2024. Who would do something like this? This got to be the family of Ty Cobb. This got to be the family of Ty Cobb. Like, you know what? Our legacy was secure until that damn integration. I was going to go down as the greatest player of all time. Who was this, Ben Chapman? Or maybe Kennesaw Mountain Landis? Like, man, I had an impeccable record, but because of my pesky racism, now nobody gives me any shine. Is this person related to one of the three or all three? I'm going to take a look at him and say, probably. 45-year-old Ricky Alderete has been arrested and charged with the crime. He faces charges of felony theft, identity theft, making false information, and aggravated criminal damage. Now, while Alderete's arrest marks a crucial step in the investigation, Wichita Police Chief Joe Sullivan hinted that it's just the beginning, suggesting the possibility of more arrests in connection with the case. I mean, does that look like the kind of guy who carried this out all by himself? Now, Alderete was taken into custody earlier this month for an unrelated case. And if you're wondering, he didn't need Jackie Robinson to cross over the criminal activity. No, he lived there already. However, authorities claim there's currently no evidence to suggest the crime was motivated by hate or race. Now, let me see. He stole something that was worth $75,000. Does this gentleman look like he could use 75 grand? I mean, does this gentleman look like he could use 7 grand? Does this gentleman look like he could use $700? But he chose to burn the statue. And I'm gonna go ahead and say it was motivated by hate or race. That's what I'm gonna go ahead and say. Now, there is some good news, however. League 42, a youth baseball league that utilizes the park where the statue was stolen for his games, initiated a GoFundMe campaign to raise funds for a replacement. And the community overwhelmingly contributed over $190,000, surpassing the initial goal of $175,000. Shout out to y'all. The need for fundraising arose as the remains of the vandalized statue were found in a state beyond repair, making it nearly impossible to restore. Now, the statue holds particular significance for that youth baseball league as it pays tribute to Robinson's uniform number, and it is situated in an area with a rich history connected to the legendary second baseman. Jackie Robinson's ties to Kansas include playing for the Kansas City Monarchs of the Negro Leagues in 1945, but of course, my intelligent viewers of this channel already knew that. But he was also drafted into an Army cavalry unit in the state in 1942. The community's commitment to replacing the statue reflects a collective effort to preserve the legacy of a baseball icon and maintain the historical connection with the esteemed athlete. So shout out to everybody out in Wichita. Our next nominee, founder of Lululemon, Chip Wilson. Now, in a recent interview with Forbes, Wilson made it clear he's not really down with all that diversity and inclusion stuff the company is on these days. He says, and I quote, Lululemon is trying to become like the Gap, everything to everybody. And I think the definition of a brand is that you're not everything to everybody. You've got to be clear that you don't want certain customers coming in. Oh, you don't want certain customers coming in. Are you giving back all that money then? Is that what you're saying? You giving back the money from the wrong customers that came in? Really, bro? You make yoga pants. Why don't you humble yourself? Now, Lululemon was founded in 1998. They better hope that they have half the staying power of the Gap, because all it takes is for white women to find a new hobby and they are screwed. I mean, Kim Kardashian is dangerously close to shattering their business model. Lululemon better take money from whoever is willing to buy their overpriced clothes, because Skims is coming for you. Yes, I'll be on Instagram. I know how many of them are out there. Now, Chip Wilson is the same man who revealed in a 2004 interview, get this, that the name Lululemon was derived from his perception that people of Japanese descent struggle with the words containing the letter L. Yes, this racially insensitive comment was part of his decision-making process in naming the company. Yeah, so it looks like Chip has been committed to racism for a very long time. This is what he said, quote, L is not in their vocabulary. It's a tough pronunciation for them. So I thought next time I have a company, I'll make a name with 3 L's and see if I can get 3 times the money. It's kind of exotic for them. I was playing with L's and I came up with Lululemon. It's fun to watch them try and say it. I'm almost speechless. Almost. Actually, I'm pretty speechless. The man named his company as a racist joke. It is crazy that he's still out here doing interviews. And how did this not come to light before now? Wilson actually stepped down as CEO in 2013 after facing backlash for inappropriate comments regarding women's bodies. And yes, he makes yoga pants. And it's coming from a man who looks like his hairline was chafed away. He kind of looks like somebody tried to clone Rob Corddry, but created a testicle that can speak instead. Oops. Now, despite his controversial comments, the brand does continue to thrive, but attempts were made to distance itself from Wilson's views and present a more inclusive image. Lululemon introduced an Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Action initiative in 2020 to address past issues by focusing on staff diversity and inclusivity, which I'm sure Chip loved. Y'all better hope this works, because if it doesn't, you'll see Lululemon all over Burlington Coat Factory. Is that what you want, Chip? Is that what you want? If not, you need to shut your mouth and go away. And by the way, am I not the only person who thinks about the fact that this was supposed to be racist towards Asian people every time I say the word Lululemon? I've said it like 3 times now, and my mind goes back there every time. I don't know if I'll ever be able to disassociate that. And yes, Lululemon You have Chip Wilson to thank for that. Congratulations to him and to Riggy Alderete. You are our racist of the week. And you know what? Special shout out to the good people of Wichita, Kansas. That was really dope. Positive news that we needed during Black History Month. If you see somebody you would like to nominate, go ahead and throw them in the comments. You can email me at reese.waters@gmail.com. And be sure to check out my videos on the Truckers for Trump New York City boycott. Also, I had one on Fox News saying that Trump sneakers was going to secure the black vote. I got a video about the Karen who said no Spanish at Disneyland. We got just about everything covered. Be sure to subscribe to the page and make sure you get notified when the next video drops. The slave-owning founding fathers, lone wolves, the Civil War, lone wolves, Jim Crow, lone wolves, Birth of a Nation, lone wolves, redlining, lone wolves, the Southern Strategy, lone wolves, the Indian Removal Act, lone wolves. That's a wolf pack you got there. You know what? We're gonna need a name for this wolf pack. Let's call it Sam, Uncle Sam. Welcome to Racist of the Week, where we expose the stupidity and hypocrisy of discrimination in hopes we can build a more perfect union and also laugh. As usual, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. And a quick shout out to last week's nominees, Nikki Haley, The Cross Couple, Navy Federal Credit Union, and the state of South Carolina. Now on to this week's unfortunate selections. Come on down, Fox Sports radio host Mons Boulianos. During a discussion about Lamar Jackson's standing in the NFL's MVP race, she suggested that Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens quarterback, didn't fit her perception of a typical quarterback. You know what? Let's just bring it right up.
This is what we do, in Rich, but I want my quarterbacks to be quarterbacky. And to me, Lamar Jackson's just a great athlete, and he's done a really good job, and he had a great game against the 49ers. Prisoners of the moment. He is not the MVP.
Quarterbacky? So what do you mean by that? Maybe the 321 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, and a perfect passer rating of 158.3 last weekend? Is that quarterbacky enough? Or maybe you like your quarterbacks not told they should switch positions or outright called a running back, because it certainly isn't about production or touchdowns or winning games or MVPs. I mean, Marlon Briscoe, the first black starting quarterback in the Super Bowl era, wasn't quarterbacky in setting multiple records at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. So the Denver Broncos put him at cornerback. That's right, they put my man on defense. So wasn't no water boy positions that was available. They didn't want him to seat people at Mile High Stadium. Put him at cornerback. After throwing for 14 touchdowns and only 5 starts and rescuing the team in the process, it had to get to that point for them to even give him an opportunity. And by the way, those are franchise rookie records. The Broncos still didn't think he was quarterbacky enough, and he had to continue his career as a receiver. Then there's Warren Moon, who wasn't quarterbacky enough. Despite winning MVP of the Rose Bowl in 1977, had to go to the Canadian Football League and throw for 5,000 yards in a season to get an opportunity. Hey, you remember when Charlie Ward won a national championship and a Heisman Trophy, and everybody knew he'd be the first black quarterback drafted in the first round since 1978, but then the NFL team said he was too short? So he played 12 seasons in the NBA, you know, the league that's built around height instead. Yes, I do, Michael Harriot. I definitely do. What do all these athletes have in common? Because it definitely isn't dual threat. If Warren Moon started running in 1977, he still wouldn't have a first down. Now, she would later say on Twitter that her comments had nothing to do with race. Show me where you said the Bills' Josh Allen wasn't quarterbacky enough for you, and then I'll agree. So first, you can't play quarterback. Then you don't play it the right way. Next, you're just not quarterbacky enough. I think I got it. And the other interesting thing about her saying that he's not her in her typical mold of a quarterback, well, none of the guys who break the mold are in your typical mold of a quarterback. That's how the mold progresses and change over time. You remember quarterbacks used to look like they were throwing with their feet. You know who didn't look like a prototypical quarterback? Dan Marino, because he came in and was throwing it more than 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. That's what happens when we change and evolve. That makes us better. It's a good thing he doesn't fit your typical mold, but your mold should always be changing. You know, my typical mold of a sports radio host is a white guy, which would mean you wouldn't fit my typical mold, but that's okay. I'm taking your opinion seriously. At least I was. I don't know if I can after this point. You also, by the way, called him just a great athlete. Ooh, just a great athlete. That's a tough one. It's a lot of just great athletes outside playing pickup in the park by day that did not put in all the hours and the discipline it takes to start in the NFL, but go off about how he's just a great athlete. This whole thing, of course, transcends sports. Moving the goalposts is nothing new. Reinventing expectations and increased scrutiny comes in the welcome packet we get in the Rookie Black Professional Symposium, along with the ability to hear dog whistles like this one. Now let's go to Arizona, where Vietnam vet Joe Abadili, curator of the Arizona Military Museum in Phoenix, for 40 years took L's all year, ending with the permanent closing of the museum due to his own offensive behavior. Now, how offensive does your behavior have to be to get a whole museum closed down? I mean, I've heard of people getting kicked out the museum. I've heard of getting banned from the museum. I've never heard of the museum is closing down due to your behavior. Now, Abadili received a letter from the Arizona National Guard Brigadier General John Conley in May of 2023, accusing him of making prejudice statements during a tour in February. The letter, revealed by the Arizona Republic, cited Abadili's remarks about being replaced by somebody he described as a, quote, gay black woman woke Jew who will ruin the place. Dog, you gotta pick one. You gotta pick one. You gotta pick one. You can't. Who you got a problem with? Who is it that you got a problem with? Is it the blacks? Is it the women? Is it the Jews? Is it the gays? I mean, what you doing, man? What you doing? The letter also highlighted Abadili's use of profanity on the tour, calling, quote, all Americans stupid, and told the members of the tour group that they knew nothing about the realities of the Vietnam era because they were too young, brainwashed, stupid, duped, uneducated, or uncaring. See, now you're doing too much. You keep doing, Joe, I warned you. If you just would have said they were too young, that would have made sense, because there's a lot of youth that don't know the realities of the Vietnam War. There's a lot of youth that don't know the realities of a lot of stuff. So you would have been fine. If you just would have went uncaring, if you just would have went duped, we could ride with that too. Because there's a lot of people that are older that have had that conflict misrepresented for them. But you put it all together and now you just sound like you out here just mad yelling outside the 7-Eleven. And that's what's actually, it's actually probably where you are right now. Mandating Abadili to undergo diversity, equity, and inclusion training by the Arizona National Guard. Despite warnings, in an interview with a reporter, he allegedly claimed that a mannequin of a soldier with a hand on its hip was meant to represent gay soldiers. Why, Joe? Why? Because I know you were sitting on that one for a long time. I know you were sitting on that one for a long time. You came in every day and you saw that soldier with the hand on his hip, and that's where your mind went. And you said, you know what, next time I get an opportunity, I'm going with that one. I'm going with that one. And the opportunity presented itself, and your brain said, you know what, don't do it, Joe, because you already made the comment about the young, uncaring, brainwashed and duped, and you also made the comment about the woke Jew, black gay person. You know what? Why don't you let it ride? Like, you just got the letter, just let it ride. No! This is too funny that people need to hear it. Is that what you're doing? You just couldn't help yourself because the joke was that good. The joke was that good, Joe. Subsequently, Abedili stepped down from his role as curator. However, the museum faced challenges beyond his departure as it remained closed for several months due to the withdrawal of state support. The Arizona National Guard is actively seeking a replacement to manage the museum and aims to open it to the public in due course. All right, Elon Musk, come on down. The tech mogul has been condemned by prominent civil rights organizations after he criticized the efforts of United Airlines and Boeing to diversify their pilots and factory workers. Here we go again. DEI is the enemy. It almost seems like a coordinated attack. Musk's comments on Twitter, that's right, his mama called it Twitter, I'ma call it Twitter, asserted that these diversity initiatives have compromised air travel safety. However, he provided no, and I mean no, substantiating evidence for this claim. The president and CEO of the National Urban League, Mark Morial, condemned Musk's statements as abhorrent and pathetic. Notably, Tesla, where Musk serves as CEO, is currently facing a lawsuit from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission over allegations of racial abuse against black employees, including racial slurs and the discovery of nooses in the workplace. Furthermore, Tesla has been accused of not addressing complaints of racial abuse and even retaliating against employees who spoke out. So this is all starting to make a little bit of sense now, because if you get rid of the diversity, then you don't have any complaints from the Equal Opportunity Commission. So if you can't stamp out the racism, stamp out the race. I think I got it, Elon Musk. Derek Johnson, president and CEO of the NAACP, responded that the actual danger stems from Musk's own social media site, which according to Johnson provides a platform for hate speech and white supremacist conspiracy theories. I would also say according to the timeline. Just pick a timeline, literally any timeline. Now, Musk engaged in the airline safety debate following an incident where a panel detached from a Boeing jet mid-flight. Now, you must be wondering if there's some sort of connection between diversity initiatives and the Boeing incident, but that would be to assume that these concerns are real and these people are arguing in good faith. They don't need an excuse to be racist. Elon Musk's initial DEI comments began when he responded to a user's speculation about the IQ scores of United Airlines pilots who graduated from historically black colleges and universities, insinuating that these scores might be lower than those of Air Force pilots. Now, first where you got me messed up is correlating SAT scores and IQ, and boy, do I have a surprise for you. You know who I want you to tell that SAT scores are tightly correlated with IQ? Tell the Princeton Review. Just go ahead and ask the Princeton Review how they feel about that. I want you to tell Kaplan that they are no longer needed. SAT scores are correlated with IQ and therefore are set and fixed. I want you to tell the College Board that I want all my Saturdays back between my sophomore and junior year of high school. You wasted my time because it was simply a measure of my IQ. Then I want you to call the SAT people and tell them that 240-point gap between the first time I took the SATs and the second time I took the SATs was a lie. One of those was a lie. I don't know which one of those was a lie. Hopefully the first one was a lie, but they both couldn't have been legit. Now let's also address the fact that he's going at HBCUs, and one thing we know is that not all black professionals go to HBCUs. I did not go to an HBCU, so that's curious that all of a sudden you would select them as the object of your slander. Then you go on to average the SAT scores at an HBCU and attach those to everybody who goes to said HBCU. And I didn't even know you could do that. That is incredible. I didn't know you could take the average SAT score at a school and apply that to everybody who went there and disqualify them from working in certain positions. Man, I'm gonna have some carnage when I get a hold of where some of y'all went to school. You know what? Just call black people stupid. Just go ahead and call black people stupid. Just because you're giving me all this nonsense. Just say I think black people are stupid. Okay, that would be quicker and to the point. You have the thinnest thread that you stretched all the way around the world and back in order to be racist. And guess what? Elon Musk jumped right over it. Yes, Yes, he did. The conversation continued with Musk mocking United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby and questioning the prioritization of DEI hiring over passenger safety. The post, by the way, received substantial attention on Twitter, garnering 14 million views within a couple of hours. And you know what? I think that Derek Johnson of the NAACP might have a point, because I just expressed how silly and outlandish the initial post was, but in responding to it, 14 million views looking at that garbage. A spokesperson for United Airlines declined to comment on Musk's remarks. However, the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, who sets minimum standards for flying commercial planes, has increased these standards in 2013 following a crash near Buffalo. In recent years, airlines have sought to expand the pool of potential pilots due to staffing shortages and the persistent financial obstacles preventing qualified individuals from pursuing a career as a pilot. You know, that's kind of what DEI is for. These efforts have included partnerships with HBCUs. Historically, the commercial airline industry faced discrimination against non-white pilots, leading to legal battles and a Supreme Court ruling to bring about change. Now, experts in the aviation industry pointed out that current hiring standards are stringent and focus on ensuring the highest quality of pilots. Commercial air travel, as per Dutch air safety organization TO70, is at its safest in 2023, with record low accidents and fatalities. Now, I don't play any games when it comes to my life, but given, according to Dutch air safety organization TO70, commercial flying is at its safest, the issue here is clearly not the safety, it's the diversity itself. And for more proof, look no further than the reaction of Southwest's all-female flight crew under the heading All-Female Flight Crew Go Off Queens. Okay, the caption is cringe. I'm not gonna lie, the caption is cringe. That does deserve to get roasted. But what I wanna know is how they can post this and have no idea how the internet works. You post this picture in 2024 on Elon Musk's platform, you're gonna get bombarded with trash posts from incels and losers who couldn't get hired as baggage handlers in Toledo. And no offense to the baggage crew in Toledo, it just sounded funny there. Well, Southwest thought they had to delete the tweet. Yes, we're at a point where a brand can't even post an innocuous tweet recognizing their all-female crew. Well, would they post an all-male crew? Sure, if they just wanted to hire somebody full-time to just post every crew. Your reaction signifies how uncommon this is. You and your buddies mobilize out of the crawl space for this specific crew and this crew alone. And I'm mad at Southwest for deleting the tweet. Let me ask you, do you think these idiots are more likely to do this to somebody else next time or less likely? You posted this tweet to show that the bar had been raised. You deleted it and lowered it right back down again. All right, let's go out west where NBA senior reporter Mark Spears faced racial profiling during a shopping trip in Healdsburg, California. Despite being an esteemed writer for ESPN and Anscape, who's often featured on popular ESPN shows. So I guess racists don't read or watch TV, or maybe they think we all look alike, which I've heard quite a few of them say. You know what? Let's throw up a picture of Mark Spears. There isn't really a whole lot of reason to discriminate against Mark Spears other than his race. In fact, I would dress as ESPN writer Mark Spears to not be discriminated against. That is exactly the avatar that I would choose to walk about life. Now, Spears shared his experience on Instagram, writing, quote, "My friends and I, all African American, were racially profiled at a store in Healdsburg called Anthem Interiors by 2 employees. When things like that happen, I get angry inside and feel pressure to buy something expensive to prove my worth, and they're wrong. After refraining from the urge, I tried to give the lady that worked there the benefit of the doubt by asking if she knew where the nearest bathroom is." Now, first of all, never buy something expensive out of spite, because I have done it, and boy, let me tell you, I have more oil diffusers down in my basement that I will never use. If you want to disrespect somebody with your money, just throw cash at them, like you do at night after midnight. You know what I'm talking about. But not in the way you would at that time. Just ball it up and toss it like a snowball. Or if you're feeling really creative, just go ahead and make a paper airplane and throw it at them. Or do like me and just keep it in your pocket, because I'm cheap. It was after attempting to defuse the situation by asking an employee where the bathroom was that things went all the way left. Spears continued. She suggested I go to the Healdsburg Police Department across the street to use their facilities. I wonder why she told him to go to the police department. Confused, I asked her why I would go to the bathroom at the police station. Her response was that it'll be okay. They won't arrest you. I immediately departed and found a bathroom at a very friendly wine bar across the street called Lyoko Wine Company. Again, I truly love Healdsburg and won't let this one incident steal my joy or cause me not to return, but I didn't want to let them off the hook either, thanks to the ones that show love, not ignorance and racism. So if you're scoring at home, you chose the absolute worst person that you could discriminate against, somebody who works in the media and national media at that. I couldn't think of anybody worse to discriminate against. I mean, maybe like the mayor who could get you shut down. That would be a bad one. Maybe like a police chief or somebody like that that could harass you after hours or give you a bunch of faulty tickets. Right after that would be the media. I mean, literally of anybody in the world, this has to be the worst. Shout out to Lyoko Wine Company too, who just through no effort of their own end up getting the best advertisement they ever could. Forget all that posts in the black boxes. I want to know how you handle Mark Spears late on a Saturday night. Do you let him use the bathroom after he got rejected from Anthem and sent to the police station? The founder of Anthem Interiors, by the way, Janelle Lovner, apologized to Spears, saying, "I'm deeply sorry that was his experience. I worked really long and hard to build a solid business. I care deeply about the community, my employees, all of it. So for this to happen is just devastating." And you know what? I can't say that she fosters this kind of environment. She wasn't there. What I will say is that her employees just got exposed like Keith Lee walked up in there. In fact, that's probably how we should conduct ourselves. We all just go about life as undercovers, just ready to blow somebody out. Shout out to Keith Lee for giving us all that idea. And notice she didn't say, "I fired that clown." I'd call for an Anthem Interiors boycott, but I've never been to Healdsburg, California, and it's a safe bet that none of you have either. We'd have to organize a group trip just to protest them and whatever it is they sell at that store. Now, Spears graciously accepted the apology and is moving on. And you know what? Shout out to him. He handled that as graciously as he possibly could. Yes, the former South Carolina governor and aspiring presidential candidate tripped over herself again during a recent Fox and Friends interview. Brian Kilmeade raised a video clip from Joy Reid's commentary highlighting the challenges faced by Haley as a woman of color and a party perceived as anti-immigrant. When asked directly if she thought the GOP was a racist party, Haley, well, you know what? I'll let her tell it.
Are you a racist party? Are you involved in a racist party?
No. We're not a racist country, Brian. We've never been a racist country. Our goal is to make sure that today is better than yesterday. Are we perfect? No. But our goal is to always make sure we try and be more perfect every day that we can. I know I faced racism when I was growing up, but I can tell you today is a lot better than it was then. Our goal is to lift up everybody, not go and divide people on race or gender or party or anything else. We've had enough of that in America. That's why I'm so passionate about doing this. I don't want my kids growing up where they're sitting there thinking that they're disadvantaged because of a color or a gender. I want them to know that if they work hard, they can do and be anything they want to be in America.
Ooh, so close. Truth be told, this is actually understandable considering that she's already shown complete ignorance of one little event that kind of disproves her theory, you know, like the Civil War. But I already dragged her for that one. We get to go all over again in this new clip. Now, America has never been a racist country. I've heard America is not a racist country, which deserves its own treatment, but never? Okay, Nikki, a couple things gonna be kind of hard to explain, like how 41 of the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence were slave owners, or the 3/5 compromise, which counted black people as 3/5 of a person, or like 1915, when Klan propaganda film Birth of a Nation was shown in the White House in front of the president, something even the Woodrow Wilson estate saw fit to apologize for, but not Nikki Haley. Then there's the whole Jim Crow era in the South. There's The Southern strategy, whereby Republican candidates gain political support in the Southern United States by directly appealing to racism against African Americans, something even former RNC chairman Ken Mehlman later apologized for. But not Nikki Haley. How about redlining? Or the outright denial of FHA loans to black borrowers, or the predatory loans that were given to those who actually got one. And that's just off the top. And it's just black people. Weren't we just here talking about anti-Semitism? Then COVID had the rise in anti-AAPI rhetoric, and since 2001, there's been ever-present Islamophobia. And no, indigenous community, I'm not gonna leave you out of this one. There is so much to choose from. But this one takes the cake for me. The 1830 Indian Removal Act, forcibly relocating Cherokee, Creeks, and other eastern indigenous peoples west of the Mississippi River to make room for white settlers, followed by the 1862 Homestead Act, following suit, giving away millions of acres for free of what had been Indian territory west of the Mississippi. Ultimately, 270 million acres, or 10% of the total land area of the United States, was completely given away. Now, I just want to unpack that for a second. The government forcibly removed people from their land and didn't even have the people or resources to populate it themselves. We don't need it. We just don't want you to have it. Then gave it away to white settlers. We don't care who has it, as long as it's not them. It doesn't get any more racist than that. A drunk wandered out of a bar in North Carolina into generational wealth just because he didn't have enough melanin on him. But ultimately, I don't need to go outside examples. I could just use your own words. You also said,
we've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
huh?
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
Huh?
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
Come again?
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
One more time.
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
Nikki, I need you to help me with something. There's also this tweet that you posted, as well as your own family history. Your family only immigrated because civil rights leaders reformed America's racist immigration laws in 1965 to allow Asians to immigrate. Her father then taught at an HBCU. Then there's the existence and necessity for HBCUs in the first place, which could also refute your point. Oh, I get it now. Individual people can be racist, but America isn't racist. So those people who discriminated against you were lone wolves, and your family, those were also lone wolves, and black people unable to attend the PWI, lone wolves, the slave-owning founding fathers, lone wolves, the Civil War, lone wolves, Jim Crow, lone wolves, Birth of a Nation, lone wolves, redlining, lone wolves, the Southern strategy, lone wolves, the Indian Removal Act, lone wolves. That's a wolf pack you got there. You know what? We're gonna need a name for this wolf pack. Let's call it Sam, Uncle Sam. I'm gonna be honest, Nikki, I've looked at the evidence and the only conclusion I could draw is you hate black people. That's it. Or at the very least, you think you're better than them. There's too much evidence for you to be making these specific statements, ignoring the struggle my ancestors and colleagues, because this is ongoing, endured, much of which you benefited from. The actual audacity. You're like the most ungrateful child in the world. In fact, you don't even use your real name, Nimrata. Oh, that must be it. You hate black people that have the courage to run for president and win, as Barack Hussein Obama, which, by the way, triggered a whole round of racism itself. But you have to hide behind Nikki Haley. Well, there's lessons in everything, Nimrata. The thought that you had to go with Nikki proves the existence of the thing you willfully ignore. If America wasn't a racist country, then it would have been Nimrata Haley who got dog walked in the Iowa primary. Now let's talk about what's really going on here. First of all, Nikki is talking to people who don't want to talk about race. Why? Because they can't reconcile it with their view of America. To them, America is the greatest country in the world, and they won't hear any evidence to the contrary, which is funny when you think about it, because if you refuse to hear evidence refuting your claim, then you don't actually believe your claim. You admitted to yourself that you're full of it and you just want to cosplay in red hats and blue flags. I believe I'm the fastest man in the world. No, I ain't racing nobody. I'm not gonna watch nobody else race. I'm not even gonna time myself. It just is. Oh, and while we're at it, I'm also the finest man in America. Second, and most importantly, Nikki Haley is appealing to the racist in Donald Trump's base. That's right. Not let me get some of the more moderate folks who got lost and somehow found themselves at a MAGA rally. No, it's let me appeal to the worst of his base just so they know I'm their gal too. That's where we're at with our politics in 2024. Yeah. The greatest country in the world. Yeah, you remember when Snakes on a Plane actress Juliana Margulies lost her whole ass mind and spewed unbelievable racist hate on Backroom with Andy Ostroy? Yeah, well, the host remarked that, quote, people hate Jews, talking about the anti-Semitism as it pertains to the Israel-Hamas war. And Margulies, well, she took the ball and ran with it, and then fumbled repeatedly.
In the civil rights movement, the Jews were the ones that walked side by side with the blacks to fight for their rights because they know. And now the black community isn't embracing us and saying we stand with you the way you stood with us. Jews died for their cause. Where's the history lesson in that? Who's teaching these kids? Because the fact that the entire black community isn't standing with us, to me, says either they just don't know, or they've been brainwashed to hate Jews.
You know, there was a film being shown by this black lesbian club on Columbia campus, and they put signs up that said "No Jews allowed." And as someone who plays a lesbian journalist on the morning show, I'm more offended by it as a lesbian than I am as a Jew, to be honest with you, because I want to say to them, you fucking idiots. You don't exist. Like, you're even lower than the Jews. A, you're black, and B, you're gay. And you're turning your back against the people who support you?
Naturally, the heat came for Juliana and not the group in question. I mean, that's normal. You were a guest star on Homicide: Life on the Street, for goodness sakes. But they both did have something to say. Now, the Columbia University student group in question, Lionless, issued a statement clarifying their position. They deny anti-Semitism, saying that there was an email that was sent out that said no Zionists allowed, a distinction between criticizing the political ideology of Zionism and targeting Jewish people at large. The Columbia Spectator reports that Lionless internally considered the email and social media posts about Zionism, which were written by a former president, to be inappropriate. Lionless's statement emphasizes their opposition to all forms of discrimination, including anti-Semitism, Zionism, and other systems of oppression. Juliana Margulies, by the way, apologized for offending the black and LGBTQIA people, stating, quote, I am horrified by the fact that statements I made on a recent podcast offended the black and LGBTQIA plus communities I truly love and respect. She said this in a statement to Deadline and the Washington Post. She also said, I want to be 100% clear. Racism, homophobia, sexism, or any prejudice against anyone's personal beliefs or identity are abhorrent to me, full stop. However, she hasn't commented on Lionless's statement clarifying their position, and I do think that's one apology that should be as loud as any other, since she singled them out and tried to assassinate the character of the entire group. Now, speaking of apologies, quote, I sincerely apologize to the Jewish community for any unplanned outbursts. It was not my intent to hurt or disrespect, and I very much regret any pain I may have caused. One guess who wrote that. The impossible appears possible. It has happened. Kanye West has issued an apology. Yes, Kanye ended up apologizing for his outbursts on social media last year. Also the posts and the rant and the hood, which I did talk about right here. Now, as much as I want to support any effort to take our power back, it rings kind of hollow from somebody who claims slavery was a choice, the culture was asleep, and that white lives matter. When last seen, Adidas had to offload Yeezys at the gas station because of comments you made about Jewish people. So the next move is to go with a black hood. Got it. I don't know whether to shake my head on behalf of black people or white people. How about both? And he made his apology on his Instagram in Hebrew. Now that is serious. Now I'll admit it is a bit odd for somebody who seemed to court and welcome the idea that Jews controlled the world to apologize. I mean, any consequences you could be facing, you said you could foresee. It's right there in your own words. You said you couldn't be canceled. I guess by that logic, he actually might mean it. Nah, we can't even get a straight answer on when his next project is coming out. He is not to be trusted. Not even about himself, especially about himself. Kanye made a business decision in a whole nother language. But he did get a lifeline from Cat Williams, though. I mean, kinda.
I suspect that we're pretty awful people if we say that somebody got a mental illness and then we watch what they do. If you say somebody got special needs, then why would you be watching them and holding them accountable like everybody else? Wouldn't you grade them on a curve? Wouldn't you go, whew, this guy? Because, I mean, what are we reacting to? What are we reacting to? You're the one that put him in a position where he thought he was God and could call himself Jesus. And you're the one told a guy that writes musical lyrics that he was a genius. Mm-hmm. You're the one that's like, so what do you expect? The guy married a whore. Like, what? Oh, Lord. Like, I didn't mean it like that. I mean, married her because she was one.
I mean, while Cat did call his ex-wife a whore, he also said we might be bad people for watching and following what he does since we've ceded that he needs help. And yes, that appears to be Cat Williams coming through with the sober take that we all needed. Let's end on a positive, kinda sorta. You remember that guy in Illinois who got convicted thanks to a blind witness? No physical evidence connected Harris to the shooting, but the judge relied heavily on the testimony of an eyewitness, Dexter Saffold. Saffold, who claimed he saw the shooting from a distance of fewer than 20 feet while riding his motorized scooter home, identified Harris as the perpetrator, both to the police and at trial. Although Judge Ford regarded Saffold's testimony as credible and sentenced Harris to 76 years. Shocking. And later emerged that Saffold had been declared legally blind by a doctor in 2002. Yes, no, not 2012, not 2022, but 2002, as in almost a decade before the trial. This Bama was legally blind for over 10 years, claiming he saw something. Also, what was he doing on a scooter? I mean, they should be arresting him because that sounds dangerous. I mean, he sounds like a menace. Well, Darian Harris has been freed. He's free. It's about time. His previous attorney discovered new evidence in 2018, but a review by the Conviction Integrity Unit initially found it inconclusive. Harris's lawyers filed a post-conviction petition highlighting evidence and constitutional violations. Cook County State's Attorney's Office decided not to retry Harris after reviewing the case again. I guess the DA saw the light. Now 18 at the time of his arrest and conviction, 30-year-old Darian Harris spent 12 and a half years in prison. After years of appeals and investigations, prosecutors have dropped the charges and Harris was released. Mind you, this was the fourth wrongful conviction exoneration in Cook County in December. I'm gonna just run that back one more time. This was the fourth wrongful conviction exoneration in Cook County in 1 month. Raising all sorts of concerns about the criminal justice system. Forget concerns, throw the whole thing in the trash and start over. Cousins James Soto and David Ayala, who were wrongfully convicted in the 1981 murder of 2 Chicago teenagers, were freed on December 14th after spending 42 years behind bars. Brian Beals walked out of prison on December 12th after being wrongfully convicted of a crime in 1988. Glenn Simmons, by the way, spent 48 years in an Oklahoma prison over a wrongful murder conviction before being exonerated last year. And as of December 13th, 19 individuals who spent at least 25 years in prison prior to exoneration were released in 2023. Now, Harris expressed joy and determination to rebuild his life after the ordeal, saying, "I finally made it. 12 and a half years, I made it. I missed some of my best years, but man, I'm finna live some good years now." Rebuild his life. The state needs to rebuild his life for him. Pay that man's bills for the next 12 and a half years. That's the least you can do after throwing him in prison for nothing. That's right. Now, this first story is not just Racist of the Week. It's got to be an early contender for Racist of the Year. That's right, Nikki. You got some competition. An unsettling revelation regarding the Smithsonian's collection of brains has surfaced, exposing a disturbing history of how these brains were obtained, because there's no normal way to have a collection of hidden brains. And if you're getting zombie apocalypse vibes, I get it. But this somehow is actually worse. Now, the Washington Post's investigation unraveled a distressing account of the Smithsonian obtaining dozens of brains, often from vulnerable populations such as Black Washingtonians, without their families' knowledge or consent. That's right. Uncle Mike from Southeast. His brain might be at the Smithsonian next to Marion Barry and Chuck Brown. Among the 280 brains held by the Smithsonian, and if you had no idea the Smithsonian was holding brains, you're not alone. 74 originated from people in the DC area, with 48 of those being from Black individuals, including children and fetuses. Shockingly, some of the brains were extracted from individuals who passed away in hospitals. So apparently, we can't even die while Black. Now, it's bad enough that gentrification priced Black folks out of DC. Now you're telling me the ones that did stay are getting their brains snatched? And what makes the situation even more disturbing is the intended use of these brains. The collector, anthropologist Alice Hrdlicka, was known for his work in the early 1900s and used these brains to study eugenics. That's right, the discredited racist pseudoscience. His aim was to compare the brains of various races and individuals with disabilities. So, wow. I mean, wow. This dude was stealing Black brains in order to call Black people inferior. He is a racist mad scientist. We should have probably actually known by the name Alice Hrdlicka. I mean, that sounds like an alias from a fake ID that was made by a fourth grader who couldn't spell. Like, is that supposed to be Alex? What is that right there? Now, the Washington Post investigation found that only a few of the 74 brains from DC locals were donated by the deceased or their families, highlighting the lack of consent and ethical concerns surrounding their acquisition. Now, I'm surprised a few even agreed. I mean, Alice had to have lied about what he needed them for. Like, we doing a study to help save children in need. You know what? Do it for the babies. Y'all want some mumbo sauce? Now, while the Smithsonian has acknowledged its problematic history and established a human remains task force, which sounds creepy as hell, but is actually commendable, to return the remains to their rightful owners, former employees have reported resistance to taking action on some of these remains. Some anthropologists were reportedly keen on continuing studies using those remains. Bruh, come on. I mean, they need to name names. I need to know who's cool with stealing brains and studying them in the year of our Lord 2024. Now, efforts to reconnect these remains to their families are expected to be challenging due to the manner in which they were obtained. Also, do they really want them back? I'm just saying, hey, you see that jar right there on the living room mantle? Yeah, that's Uncle Leroy. Just got him back from the Smithsonian. Yeah, he was in the Red Castle. Nevertheless, the Washington Post has created a database to assist users in navigating records of human remains at the Smithsonian, potentially aiding in reuniting individuals with their ancestors and loved ones. And if you think they took your loved one's brain, good luck and Godspeed on your journey to retrieve it. And also, call your lawyer because it sounds like quite the class action suit. Next up, New York's American Museum of Natural History. That's right, we're going to keep it academic and apparently keep it unjust and afterlife. Now, the museum closed 2 Native American halls last weekend, citing their outdated nature and the inclusion of culturally sensitive items. Sounds like they're doing the right thing, right? Well, the move is part of a broader trend among U.S. institutions adapting to recently updated federal regulations regarding the display of indigenous human remains and cultural artifacts. Oh, okay. So the Fed said you couldn't keep this up, and then you came with the language about how you saw the light. Oh, okay, I got it. Now, the decision to close the halls comes after the museum announced in October it will remove all human remains from public display, intending to repatriate them to Native American tribes and rightful owners. Sean Decatur, the museum's president, emphasized the growing urgency for museums to reevaluate their relationships with tribes and their approach to exhibiting indigenous cultures. And that growing urgency was born the moment President Biden signed an executive order for the Department of the Interior to announce final revisions to the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, a 1990 federal law that provides for the ownership or control of Native American cultural items, which means remains and objects, excavated or discovered on federal or tribal lands. The department's updates require museums and federal agencies to obtain consent from tribes before displaying human remains and cultural artifacts. So if you're scoring at home, essentially you were riding late to work, and it was during that ride you discovered how destructive it is for you to be late to work. Showing up talking about, boss, you know, that pink slip that you put on my locker just really made me rededicate myself to this job. Take me back. Look, y'all had all this time in order to see the light and do the right thing, to even consult with indigenous tribes to see how they felt about this display being done, and then you wouldn't have needed federal legislation. Now, in a letter to the staff, Decatur acknowledged that the closed halls located in the Eastern Woodlands and Great Plains sections were remnants of a time when museums didn't adequately respect indigenous values. Shocking. He stated the actions taken may feel sudden to some, but are long overdue for others. Several other institutions, including Chicago's Field Museum, Harvard University's Peabody Museum of Archaeology and Ethnology, and the Cleveland Museum of Art, have also covered or removed displays featuring Native American items to comply with the revamped federal regulations. Now, it's funny how everybody just saw the light at the exact same time. Now, Shannon O'Loughlin, head of the Association on American Indian Affairs, praised these developments, but emphasized that the true test lies in repatriation, returning objects to tribes. She noted that covering displays or removing items is just one step in a more comprehensive process. Now, the revised regulations released by the U.S. Department of the Interior in December expand requirements for consulting with tribes and obtaining their consent to exhibit and conduct research on indigenous artifacts. The changes aim to address the concerns of Native American groups who have long criticized the slow process of returning culturally significant items. Now, Decatur clarified that rather than merely covering or removing items in the closed halls, the decision was made to shutter them entirely due to their severe outdatedness, which I suppose wasn't apparent last year or the year before. Now, while this move will suspend school field trips to these halls, the museum remains committed to supporting the teaching of an indigenous cultures, which is good to hear. O'Loughlin emphasized that the new regulations make it clear that research and exhibiting Native cultural heritage aren't prohibited, but require prior and informed consent. Now, as museums adapt to these regulations, discussions with Native American groups are ongoing to secure consent for the display of certain items. The ultimate goal is to foster a respectful approach to indigenous cultures within museum settings. Now, a couple of takeaways I have from this story. I was blown away by the number of times I've been in a museum and seen relics and in some cases even remains and gave absolutely no thought to where this came from, whether or not this belongs to some tribe somewhere, and whether or not their family considers it an affront to them that this is being shown in a museum. That is my own ignorance. And I guess in that way, I am part of the problem. Another takeaway, I live in Washington, D.C., and this is a place that had a wide debate over use of the name Redskins. There were some indigenous folks who felt like the name was offensive. There were others who felt like it was actually honoring their ancestors and their legacy. And they had the opinion, which I heard quite often on radio, that the indigenous community largely is erased from American popular culture. You really don't see them much of anywhere. I think, what was the joke that Chris Rock had about seeing a Native American family or an indigenous family at Red Lobster? You would sooner see Bigfoot. I think that was his punchline. He talked about what bigger platform is there to remind people of the significance and the greatness of indigenous cultures, the richness of indigenous cultures, than to have them represented on probably the biggest platform we have, which is the NFL. There were people that really felt that way. So while I came with the jokes and the slander, which was extremely necessary for the American Museum of Natural History and Harvard and some of the other museums that have taken these steps, I do think it's commendable that that they are featuring indigenous communities, but trying to find a way to continue to feature indigenous communities, however they do that. How do we continue to do that, but do it in a way that is respectful? That is a challenge that we all face, and I think it's a challenge that we should be willing to move through as Americans, because it's valuable. Charlie Kirk, the founder and president of Turning Point USA, who, you thought I was going to talk about what he said about MLK? Oh, yeah. You know, I was going to do that, but I had better things to do with my time. But I can only let you slide for so long. No, the founder and president of Turning Point USA had the following to say about black pilots on his weekly panel discussion, Thought Crime.
That's why I think this United story and the DEI story hits so hard, because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits, or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off, and I feel better now thinking about that.
No, I mean, like, you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Oh yeah, the title was accurate. And not to be outdone, noted pick-me Candace Owens defended black excellence in her response.
And what he is remarking on is true. I would be terrified if I got onto a plane and I saw a woman flying the plane.
Y'all knew she didn't defend black excellence any more than she exhibits it. She just doubled down on supremacist thinking. But back to Kirk. I wonder if he is qualified. Well, I wonder if the Tuskegee Airmen were qualified, and Cornelius Coffey and Willa Brown, Bessie Coleman, just to name a few. I wonder if they were qualified. See, you could just as easily say, I don't usually see black pilots. They must be really qualified. All they went through to get to this point, they must be really good. But you don't, because of the racism you bring to the table about black people and their abilities.
But what DEI does is it introduces poisonous, toxic lines of thinking. The point I was making is this, is it's condescending to qualified blacks. It's condescending to qualified females.
Oh, here we go again. You knew it was coming. So it's DEI's fault that you feel this way. It's diversity's fault, because before diversity efforts, you had the full faith when you saw a black pilot, right? Well, to quote the great Bill Duke, you know you done effed up, right? You know you done effed up, right? Lately, the conservative media landscape chose air travel to trump up opposition against corporate diversity programs, igniting a cultural battleground within the industry. Recent weeks have witnessed a surge in right-wing influencers, politicians, and media outlets targeting airlines' diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, often based on inaccurate or misleading information. Actually, I'll say generally based on inaccurate and misleading information. This campaign, while centered on the airline sector, holds implications for the broader culture war issues as the 2024 election year unfolds. And you know what started all this? An incident where a panel detached from Alaska Airlines Boeing jet mid-flight. Yeah, no black pilot. We're not even talking about flying at all. This is somebody's maintenance issue, and it became a referendum on DEI. There is a dude somewhere in middle America who stayed out a little bit too late with his buddies. He shouldn't have had that extra scotch. He slept in and totally forgot to report to his job at the airport the next day. No call, no show. You know what it turns into? A referendum on DEI? America. The sensible racist would have used this to attack DEI in the maintenance room. But these are not sensible racists. Everybody from Donald Trump Jr. to Elon Musk has weighed in, and I addressed Musk in a previous Racist of the Week edition, by the way, because it's always good to get an opinion from the wrong side of apartheid. Podcast host Joey Manarino claimed that, quote, the Diversity Hire Brigade was to blame for the tarmac delays at New York's JFK International. Yeah. And here's Don Jr. blaming diversity for a wheel falling off a plane in Atlanta. Did he see the maintenance staff? Did he know who worked on that particular plane? No. Just the fact that the plane was in Atlanta? Okay. It's a pretty good guess, actually. Now, the general theme is this is about life and death. We need the best pilots regardless of skin color. Diversity and inclusion is making us less safe, which would actually make a lot of sense if it was based in any actual evidence or didn't come with the assumption that black people, by their very nature, made us less safe. And yes, I know that because you said it yourself.
Because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off. And I feel better now thinking about that.
No, I mean, like, you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
So it's not actually the best that gives you peace of mind. It's the whitest. So let's throw that whole merit-based argument out the window. But since we're here, let's look at the numbers anyway. 88.3% of commercial airline pilots are white. 96% of fatal commercial aviation crashes have been piloted by whites. There hasn't been an airline catastrophe of any kind involving a black pilot this century. So, you know, if you can, you should probably request a black pilot. But wait, there's more. There hasn't been a fatal commercial flight disaster in the United States since 2009, and airline experts laud flight safety for being at its highest in 2023. And yet, we're having this conversation. Why? Because it's not about the safety, it's about the diversity. And while we're at it, let me add, what diversity? Despite statements to the contrary from airlines about their commitment to diversity, about 92% of pilots and flight engineers are white. And because we like symmetry, 92% are men. That's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's a 9 and a 2. Also, according to them, black pilots and flight engineers grew from 2.7% in 2018 all the way to 3.6% in 2023. That's right. All this angst for 1%. Ain't no crashes to point to. Y'all don't even have diversity to point to. I guess it's not enough until it's all white, huh? And here I am thinking you wanted the best regardless of skin color. You just wanted to feel all white. And the share of pilots and flight engineers who are women fell. It fell from 9% to 8.3% from 2018 to 2023. Now here's my favorite fact though, because you remember that Boeing flight where the door came off? That started all this whole round of disingenuous alpine tears? The pilot who landed that plane was a woman. Bam! Bam! Oh, they hate to hear the truth. All y'all, and I mean all y'all, are nominated for Racist of the Week. You too, Candace Owens. Technically that was sexism, but I know where you come from. Y'all remember when Nikki Haley...
Please, what was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way. What do you want me to say about slavery? Next question.
Well, then there was the time that she said,
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
huh?
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
Huh?
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
Come again?
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
One more time.
We've never been a racist country. I faced racism when I was growing up.
All of this making her the first two-time winner of Racist of the Week. Well, with an honor like that, you would think she would have to go on The Breakfast Club to clean things up a bit, you know, like set the record straight on the kind of person that she really is. And she did that. Well, she didn't clean things up, but we do know who she really is. Amongst other things, she downplayed the racism that was involved in the AME church shooting in Charleston, South Carolina when she was governor, where 9 black parishioners were murdered by white supremacist Dylan Roof, saying, quote, the national media came in and they wanted to define this. They wanted to make it about guns. They wanted to make it about racism. They wanted to make it about the death penalty. And when Charlemagne the God prodded her that it was in fact about racism, she added, no, it was, but the point was I strong-armed them and said there'll be a time we talk about all that, but right now we have 9 souls we need to put to rest. I didn't have that luxury because 2 days later, the killer came out draped in the Confederate flag. Nikki, what you even talking about? Like what are you even talking about? You just said you didn't have time, you had to lay them to rest, but then the killer came out draped in the Confederate flag. At that point, wouldn't you feel like you have to address the racism involved? And if now wasn't the time, and clearly years later isn't the time, when is the time? When is the time to talk about it, Nikki? Apparently, we haven't even reached the time to talk about race's role in the Civil War.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
150 plus years later. So exactly when were you going to come around to talking about race's role in it? And no, wait, it gets better or worse. Later, she told DJ Envy that she voted for the former president Donald Trump because she was tired of the racial divisions of the Obama era. Wait a minute. That can't be right. Hold on. The racial divisions of the... Are you serious? The racial divisions of... Oh, okay. So the divisions were Obama's fault. Oh, I got it. It was Obama's fault for the division. So all of the birtherism was his fault for being black. And the rise in white supremacist movements all over the country, that was his fault for being black. And the monkey cartoons, yeah, that was his fault for being monkey colored. Michelle being called a man, I guess that was her fault for actually filling out a dress. That is quite the blank check that you gave white people. No matter what happens, it is other people's fault. No wonder you don't think slavery had a role in the Civil War. You probably think blacks weren't working hard enough. Oh, that all makes quite a bit of sense. And I'm sure you think that the racism that your own family faced was your fault. Actually, you probably do think that. You probably do think it was your fault. All right. There was so much that it was hard to pick just a few, but I do have to give you this one. She was asked, quote, when you look at the inequalities in America in education, home ownership, employment and wealth, healthcare, can you admit that America is systemically and structurally a racist country? Now, this was, of course, on the heels of her claiming that America has never been racist, which, by the way, was a topic for a whole episode of Racist of the Week. So she was asked, can you admit that America is systemically and structurally a racist country? To which she says, I think culture has a lot to do with it, right? Right. You think they're going to agree with something like that? You think culture has a lot to do with it? Okay, so when they were doing redlining, I guess they were going through the black communities and making sure that everybody who had the right culture could move into the white neighborhoods and the ones that didn't couldn't. Is that what it is? Like all the black people that had the right culture got the FHA loans and everybody else couldn't? Is that what you're talking about? And moreover, I'm pretty sure that places like Tulsa and Rosewood had exactly the right culture you're talking about, and they were destroyed. If for no other reason, because they had that culture, and also they were turning over money hand over fist. So it seems that when that culture is achieved, you find a way to destroy it. And yet you point to culture as the reason why black people haven't advanced. What a trick bag you just created there. I'm gonna have to do a whole separate video on this. So you mean to tell me you can systematically extract wealth from black families for generations, place it in the hands of whites, and then talk about culture? Because culture is never affected by economics, right? It's never, it's not. We're just a monolith, regardless of our financial means as are whites. So that makes a whole lot of sense. That's one of the things they love to do. They say, oh no, it's not about race, it's about culture. It's not about race, this is about money, this is fine. Oh yeah, because money and finances is never about race, right? It's never about race, never tied into that. Don't let them fool you. That brings me to my next update, and we're staying in South Carolina. See, Nikki Haley, this is what you leave behind when you lead with that level of ignorance. So y'all remember that couple in Conway, South Carolina got picked up and charged for burning a cross? A white couple from Conway, South Carolina was arrested for erecting and setting fire to a cross outside their black neighbor's home over Thanksgiving weekend. In addition, Butler allegedly posted the black couple's address on Facebook and wrote that he planned to summon the devil's army, and I don't care if they and I both go down in the same boat. I'm about to make them pay. That's according to USA Today. It's funny he used boat because he definitely could not afford a boat. And let me say, my favorite threats are the ones that are posted on Facebook, because not only is there a paper trail, but I know you're really behind on things and you're not going to get around to attacking me until at least your Vine account gets set up. Now, Butler and Harnett were arrested in December and charged with second-degree harassment. Additionally, federal investigations into civil rights violations are underway, but the severity of their actions has prompted a special prosecutor, James Battle, to file a petition declaring Butler and Harnett's residence a public nuisance. 15th Circuit Solicitor Jimmy Richardson has requested a judge to approve a temporary injunction for the immediate eviction of the couple. The proposal suggests boarding up the residence until the case is officially heard in court. And to that I say, what home? What home? Why is this couple even at home? What does Joe Dirt, Bonnie, and Clyde gotta do to get locked up no bail? Because, I mean, look at this couple. Does it look like they paid bail? And I do, though, find it ironic, though, I must say this, that they might lose their home after burning lumber. I mean, that is ironic. I mean, they wasted all that fine craftsmanship they might need very soon. So if I were you, Butler and Harnett, I better go ahead and ask that black family if they still have that cross. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for future updates and future editions of Racist of the Week. And of course, let me know if there are any stories that you think we should feature below in the comments. Yes, I know I have a turtleneck on. I like turtlenecks.